Reborn and India as a Magnate. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376, Chris family's response, Part 1. This is a good move. The Chris family has taken away all the titles they hold. After removing the golden signboard of nobility, the Chris family has become an ordinary person. In other words, an ordinary merchant family is just a little rich, and there is nothing to be afraid of. The Queen of England did not suffer any loss. She took back the noble titles of the Chris family, and they are all hereditary. There are so many vacant titles in the hands that can be passed on to future generations. Those merchant families who are crazy about becoming nobles will flock to them. Everyone gets what they need, so the Queen of England will help the Marquis of Sheffield so much. If there is no benefit, what can Her Majesty do? This is a reality. Although it is very cruel, this is a reality. Don't think that Her Majesty the Queen is upright when she speaks in the hospital, just like the goddess of justice is possessed. In fact, there are many tricks in it. The first two steps are more solid. What about the third step? What should I do in the third step? He started to use the funds in his hands and began to desperately defeat the businesses in the hands of the Chris family. He was just spending money desperately. No matter what the other party did, he would go against them. Not making money can't make you make money. As long as your capital chain is broken, there is no way to rescue the stocks in the stock market. Let the stocks in your hands become waste paper. No one will buy your stocks anymore. Who can you find to save your broken capital chain? Even if you sell houses and land, there is still a time limit. How can you find money so quickly? It can be said that it is linked together, one link after another. The Chris family is dizzy with a hammer in the east and a stick in the west. Belsinger, the bad seed, brought the Marquis of Sheffield to the castle of the Baron of Audley and lived there. He was very excited to come to the command of this financial war, to let the Marquis of Sheffield see it with his own eyes. How to suppress the stocks in the hands of the Chris family. Although the stocks in the hands of the Chris family are worth a lot of money, but the proportion of control is too small. As long as the stock market drops by 1 percentage point, the price of the stocks in the hands of the Chris family will fall by half. If you want these stocks not to become waste paper, you have to cover your positions before he can, and you have to invest a large amount of funds in it. Where can you invest the money? In addition, the traders that Baron Audley found were very cruel and very accurate. Every operation was like a sharp knife, stabbing the 7 inches of the Chris family at once, making it impossible for him to reach it and very painful, slowly torturing him to death. It was cruel enough, but in the eyes of the Marquis of Sheffield, this was not enough. Now the only reason for him to live is to seek revenge on the Chris family. Revenge for your parents, revenge for your daughter, and revenge for yourself. It would be considered light if you don't play you to death. Of course, the Chris family is not all waste. The stock market rested for 2 days, and the third day happened to be Monday, when the market opened. The traders of the Chris family sensed the smell of conspiracy. Someone deliberately shorted the stock market. The stocks they held in their hands were shorted on a large scale. It is not easy to find the true identity of the opponents targeting the Chris family, but it is found after a quick search. They are all blank accounts that have not been activated in the Cayman Islands for decades. The owners of these blank accounts are all kinds of people. It is obvious that they are traps. You can't find any results if you continue to search. They registered blank accounts decades ago. They are just selling all the information of the accounts for a living. Where can you find them? Do you know who the opponent behind is? If you can't find the opponent, you can't prescribe the right medicine. Keep replenishing positions in the stock market. Does the Chris family have that money? Now the Chris family is in a mess. All businesses have countless opponents at almost the same time. They are waving large sums of money and are against you at all costs. This may be a bit too macro, and everyone can't see clearly what difficulties the Chris family has encountered. Then I will talk about the situation encountered by a small store, and everyone can understand how insidious such a trick is. The Chris family has a large number of storefronts. These shops are located on the busy commercial streets of major cities in the UK, and 75% of them are run by the Chris family. Although they sell a wide variety of things, they are all expensive and are high-end stores. But I don't know when, suddenly there are shops selling the same goods on my left and right, and the price is 1/3 lower than my store. The things sold in your store are 1/3 more expensive, and theirs are 1/3 cheaper, and they are all of the same brand quality. You just want to report them to the Industrial and Commercial Bureau for fraud, but they are selling genuine goods. How can you report them? Is it your business to have a promotion when they open for business? Is it your business to have a big discount when they open for business to give back to consumers? And these two stores are sandwiched between the Chris family's store on the left and right. Do you think this is good? Doing this will cause the Belsina gang to lose some money, and the loss is not small, but in order to squeeze out these stores of the Chris family, I will do whatever it takes. I just want to bring you down. I don't care which consumer will benefit from all these discounted products, but it's okay if it doesn't cost you, the Chris family. We can afford this money, but can you? Can the Chris family afford it? The Chris family's stock account is now shorted, and now is the time to cover the position, which is money, but the funds in the hands of the Chris family have been almost used up, so they can only distribute it to others. Who will be distributed to? The funds will be drawn from the 75% of store managers in the hands of the Chris family. But now all the stores are in trouble. The two stores on the left and right are attacking the Chris family's business. They are offering discounts and promotions, and the business is booming. What should you do? No one buys your products. All your payment is tied up in these products. How can you withdraw funds? Then someone will say, I can also reduce the price. Even if I lose money, I can also recover part of the payment funds. Is this okay? But if you reduce the price, I will also reduce the price. No matter how much you reduce, I have more than you. What should I do? This is called killing all the people. All the funds are tied up in the payment. You can't sell, even if you reduce the price. If an average consumer buys 1 bag a day, that's not a big deal, but you have to sell 10 bags a day to get your money back. If you sell 10 bags to one consumer, then 100 or 1000 consumers can save your store. But think about it, no matter how cheap you are, the bags you sell are not money, and what you spend is not money. People only buy 1 bag, so why buy so many bags? Who has so much spare money to buy these high-priced goods? Then there is another trick, which is that the Chris family takes the unsold goods in the inventory of these stores and quickly packs them up and loads them onto trucks and transports them to other cities for sale. But when you load the trucks, the other two stores are staring at you. Can you escape their tracking? Chapter 377, Chris family's response. You load the goods here and plan to transport the goods to the Chris family stores in other cities for sale. You replenish the goods back and forth just to make your goods flow. The other two stores are not fools, so if I sell other things, you sell casseroles, and I sell rice bowls, there will be no conflict, right? But the Singh family brought so many allies and spent so much money just to kill the Chris family and cut off his capital chain. Can you succeed? You load things here, and I also load things here. You transport the goods to London, and I transport them to London. I guarantee to open a store next to you, and I will also sell them at a big discount to promote sales. If you transport these goods to Edinburgh, I will also transport the goods there, open a store next to you, and still squeeze you. Let's calculate the cost of loading, hiring a car, and organizing the store. These are not money. If there is no money and you invest such a large amount of money, how can you collect the funds? Besides, you have to spend time to organize the store, advertise and promote sales. Can you see the effect on the same day? At all costs, they will cut off the Chris family's capital chain and let all your goods rot in their hands. This is the cruelty of financial war. They have squeezed the Chris family store and let all the goods rot in their hands. They will not let you turn into money. If you can't turn into money, you can't go to the stock market to make up for your position. You can only watch the stocks of big companies in your hands turn into waste paper. Even the dumbest people know that someone is trying to trip up the Chris family and launch an attack. What's more, the Chris family has always been an elite. Otherwise, it would be impossible to calculate into the bones of the Sheffield family, but now it's good. They have been calculated by others, and it's an overall attack, an attack from many aspects. The contemporary Earl Chris has been so anxious that his hair has turned white in the past 2 days, but it's not too late, and this is not the worst. The worst thing is that his Percespison in the British House of Lords brought back a thunderbolt. What is this thunderbolt? That is the Queen of England's rage. The hereditary titles held by the Chris family were all taken back, and the golden signboard of hereditary aristocracy was gone. Who would respect you if you wanted to raise funds? You wanted to sell your family property to cover your position and save your store, but who would buy these properties? When they attack you, they want to kill you with one blow. Can you still recover? If you can recover, won't you bite? If you don't make all the perfect preparations, will your opponents attack the powerful Chris family? They think of everything before you. Do you think you can win all the wars? That's impossible. There are many things that cannot be decided by humans. It's over now. All the stocks on the stock market have become waste paper. Of course, this is not accurate. They are all waste paper. After the stock price rises, they still have value in their hands. Since they have sold them, they can still take away some funds, but they lose money there. It also depends on whether your opponent is in a good mood and whether he can let go of the stocks in your hands. If they continue to suppress the stocks for half a month, you just wait to lose money, which is equivalent to earning a large amount of waste paper. Is there such a kind opponent who will let you dispose of the stocks and recover the funds to compete with your side? Who is so kind? If you don't kill the snake, you will be bitten by the snake. If you want to mess with you, you want to kill you. If you can let you return to the world, wouldn't that be a disaster? But before the male heirs of the Chris family came up with a solution, I didn't expect another hammer to come down from the sky. It hit everyone in the Chris family in the face, and they were so dizzy that they didn't know where to go. They wondered if they had heard it wrong or had hallucinations. The commercial streets and stores in the prosperous areas, controlled by their own family, could not raise funds to rescue the Chris family. You want to sell at a reduced price, but no one will buy the inventory in your hands. Chris and his son looked at each other stupidly, and they didn't know how to talk. This is stupid, this is a real fool. But the contemporary Earl of the Chris family, that is, the father of Baron Chris, who is in his 30s, is indeed an old fox who has seen many storms. Although he was a little dizzy, he forced himself to calm down and carefully think about whether there is any countermeasure in his mind. He quickly thought of saving the Chris family, but just when he wanted to calm himself down, the hammer on the right came down, and Earl Chris received a summons from the local court in London. The summons clearly stated that Baron Sheffield sued the Chris family for murdering his parents, and he even handed the evidence to the judge. The Chris family really felt scared this time. This is an act of uprooting the Chris family, leaving no saplings for you. Uprooting your family and eradicating it all is cruel enough, but it's too late to be afraid now. The old Earl now quickly found his phone book and called his allies, asking them to quickly reach out and help their brothers. He wanted his allies to help him at all costs and not let those invisible opponents kill the Chris family. No matter how much it costs, we must protect the younger generation of the family. Unfortunately, all the traditional allies of the Chris family have been warned by Baronetry and other nobles. Whoever dares to help the Chris family will be the enemy of our 5 families. After we have dealt with the Chris family, the next target will be you. Don't talk to me about the spirit of nobility. The spirit of chivalry is useless. Now it is a financial war, and the game is all about money. Your family does not have as much money as our 6 allies. I will kill you. Who dares to lend a hand? Just like the Battle of Mengliangu. Who dares to save Zhang Lingfu? Who dares to trap himself in rescuing Zhang Lingfu? Now who dares to pull the head of the Chris family will be suppressed by all members of the Singh family. When other families confront each other, the worst thing is to let the other party lose some money, some land and reputation, but not to kill them. But this time is different. This time the opponents of the Chris family intend to kill them all, and not let them go. You allies are really brave enough to fill it in. In that case, the allies led by the Singh family will not care whether you beg for mercy on your knees, act like a bear, or pretend to be pitiful. They will kill you. It's over. This time it's completely over. Even though the old man of the Chris family is cunning and can be called an old fox, you should give him time to react. In the morning, he just wanted to withdraw the funds from the store and rescue the stock market after learning that the stock market was in trouble. But he was hit by a hammer and a stick, and the old fox of the Chris family was dizzy. You can't recover. If you recover, you will bite people. Young people are young people after all. Baron Chris, who is in his 30s, is at the peak of his life. Although his IQ is a little lower than that of the old fox, after the excitement, he reacted and grabbed his father's hand and begged, "Father, can't you see what's going on? They're trying to put our Chris family to death. And they are going to wipe out the entire family. Not a single one will be left alive. I'm sure that within half an hour, all of those pretentious children in our family will receive a court notice. Even the court bailiffs will come to our family and take all the male members to jail. It's all over. The most important thing now is to protect the heirs in the family and let everyone take their things and run as far away as possible. Then, we can develop the Chris family and come back for revenge." Chapter 378. It's too late. Looking at his excellent son, the old earl felt extremely guilty. If it weren't for his own reasons, this heir who once satisfied him would not have been deserted by his friends and relatives today. It was his narrow-minded father who ruined his son's life. After all, he is still young. Can't your opponent think of the escape plan that you can think of? This is desperate. But as a father, no matter when, he should support his children and leave a strong figure for them, so that they know that begging for mercy will not save their lives. The old earl looked at his son with a smile, touched his handsome head, and said with a smile, "Child, how old are you, and still so naive? Listen to what's going on outside. Everything is too late." At this time, Baron Chris heard the faint sound of sirens outside. As the saying goes, even rabbits bite when they are anxious. It is human nature to struggle before death. They will never give up their right to survive until the last moment. Even when you are facing the end of your life in the face of a heinous crime, you still cry bitterly and show the fragile side of human beings. Baron Chris is in this state now. He stood up from the ground and his clear eyes changed to a crazy look. It made him, a father, feel scared and shouted, "It is impossible that the Chris family is so powerful that it is impossible to be defeated by these rabble in just 3 days. Father, we still have a chance. We still have family property and manners. I don't believe that any official will not eat fish. I sold these home-cooked things and gave money like crazy. I don't believe that those judges will sentence our family members to multiple punishments. As long as I can breathe a sigh of relief, I will find out who declared war on our family, and I must kill him. Is it still useful to say this now? After all, you are young, and don't take responsibility. Now you are still thinking about revenge on your enemies. Where is your enemy? Do you know who it is? What capital do you have to retaliate against others? It's true that your family still owns dozens of shops in the prosperous commercial street, and you still have manors and land. There are also those valuable artworks collected at home. If you get rid of them all, you can at least get more than £500 million of property. But will your opponent let you turn these real estates into real money and continue to fight with the opponent? Do you think your opponent will give you this opportunity? Fortunately, the real estates in your hands are all legally obtained. Even the judges can't arrange these legally obtained real estates into the ranks of illegal income. They dare not confiscate the family property. If they really do so, the entire British aristocracy will be boiling. Will these judges bear it at that time? Even if you are greedy, you can't make a difference in the legal income of a noble family. You are killing the chicken to scare the monkey, warning all the noble families of the ancestral legal property in your family. I want to confiscate it. What can the nobles of the British Empire do? Can they tolerate such behavior? If you can seize the property of the Chris family, you can seize my property. This is the hard-earned money accumulated in several lifetimes. Will it be cheap for you vampires? Why are there so many top rich people in the United States, but how many kidnapping cases against rich people are successful every year? How many people dare to kidnap those billionaires? That's because these desperate criminals dare not touch this red line. If you really touch the entire American upper class and form a united front, you will be killed, even if you escape to the horizon. These super rich people are united. Even the President of the United States works for them. They kill you if they say they will kill you, and they will do you a disservice if they say they will do you a disservice. How did so many presidents of the United States die by assassination? It's not just a conflict with these wealthy billionaires from wealthy families. People killed them, let alone you, a judge. If you are greedy, you can take your son to measure how big your belly is. Aren't you afraid of being stuffed to death? Although my son has fallen into a crazy state, there is a saying that is right. These properties are still the capital for our Chris family to make a comeback, but there are always two sides to things. I think it's good, but will the opponent leave the Chris family a chance to revive? It seems that the chance is slim. Count Chris ignored his mad son, but chose to sit on a chair, smoking silently, and asked the old butler to pour him a glass of whiskey. 2 minutes later, the sound of the castle gate being violently knocked open was heard, followed by a large number of footsteps, which were getting closer and closer. When the door of the study was pushed open, all the police officers in police uniforms came in. They saw the old count smoking and drinking quietly on the chair, smiling at themselves, while Baron Chris, who was known for his insidiousness and cruelty, was yelling on the side, obviously because of overstimulation. The leading police officer saw the sharp contrast between the father and son, and couldn't help but sigh that the old man is smart, and this sentence is really true. Whether it is success or failure, or facing death directly, if you lose and admit defeat. What's the use of desperate resistance? It will only make you die faster. Seeing Count Chris signaled himself with his eyes, the leading police officer adjusted the tie around his neck. He quickly pulled out a stack of arrest warrants from his pocket, and found the arrest warrants for Count Chris and Baron Chris. He showed them to the two high-ranking nobles, then waved his hand. The impatient subordinates who had been waiting behind him put the father and son behind their backs. At this time, Count Chris did not resist at all, but looked at the police chief who handcuffed him very calmly, and asked with a smile, "Mr. Officer, I want to ask, who are the names on these wanted warrants? All the things were done by us, father and son. It has nothing to do with other family members. What mistakes have they made? You want to arrest them? It doesn't matter, Count Chris, you are not very good at acting, but you really don't know what kind of state your family members are in outside. Everyone in London knows what kind of stuff your Chris family is. Those boastful children have done all kinds of bad things. It's just because your family is too strong. Those victims can't bring you down, and they are afraid of retaliation, so they choose to swallow their anger. But now it's different. I don't know whether your family's luck has been completely ruined, or God has opened his eyes, and there is actually a group of mysterious enemies uprooting your Chris family. You are no longer a hereditary Earl and Baron, without the golden signboard of the title, and the capital chain of the family has been broken. In addition to this manor and those real estates, what else do you have? I don't know why that group of mysterious people is so powerful. They actually dug up the victims from 30 years ago. There are those people who support and attack these victims, and even use money to sue. Do you think those boastful children in your family can still escape the crimes they have committed? But seeing the old Earl's confused look, it seems that he really doesn't know what kind of state his family members are in outside. He thought that the boys in the family were all good babies, and yes, they are good babies. It's just that they are good babies in front of you, the head of the family. In front of ordinary people, they are bloodthirsty demons. Chapter 379, Complete Collapse. At this time, the old butler who the old Earl had ordered in advance came running in from outside in a hurry, took out the check that the old Earl had asked the butler to prepare, and handed it to the Earl. The Earl held these cash checks in his hand, shook them in front of many policemen, and then said to everyone with a smile, "Everyone knows what I have in my hand. It is a cash check from HSBC Bank. Anyone who is not named can take this check to HSBC Bank to exchange it for cash. Although the British Police Department has been formed for hundreds of years, to be honest, who doesn't covet money in the capitalist world? If you don't have money, you are a grandson bastard. No one will care about you, and no one will care about you, even if you starve to death on the street. But if you have money, you are the uncle, and you can live the luxurious life you want. What can't you buy? Money represents everything. How much is a monthly salary of these hard-working policemen? Count Chris held these checks in his swinging hands. Each one is much more than the salary of these policemen in 10 years. This is a windfall. Who wouldn't be tempted? In addition, the leading policeman was the deputy director of the local police station, and the team he led was composed of his trusted subordinates, all of whom were his brothers. So the leading police officer signaled with his eyes, and the brothers behind him naturally closed the door. At this time, Earl Chris smiled. It's good that you are greedy for money. If you are greedy for money, I can know everything. I'm afraid that you are not greedy. Then he quickly took out a check for £100,000 from his hand, put it on the desk, and turned to ask the leading police officer. Mr. Officer, we know very well what we have done, but those children are innocent. Why do you want to arrest them? The leading police officer just put the check into his pocket, and then took out the stack of arrest warrants in his hand one by one with a smile. Let Earl Chris take a good look. Every time the old Earl saw each name on the arrest warrant, he felt that the sky was about to fall down, because of all the evil deeds he had committed. These sons, nephews and even grandsons who were very respectful and well behaved in front of him, you said they were a man-eating tiger. They did all kinds of bad things. The space on the arrest warrant is limited, so they can only record the most serious mistakes made by the direct members of the Chris family. Those minor faults have not been mentioned yet. This time, Count Chris was really dumbfounded. He turned back and looked at the smiling police officer in charge and asked, "Is everything said above true? Are all these bad things done by our family members?" The police officer in charge had nothing to hide. These were all public security cases registered in the police station. As the deputy director, there was no shortage of files. When I got this stack of more than 20 arrest warrants a few days ago, I almost had a heart attack. Then I checked the files according to the names on the arrest warrants. Each one was a real case. There was no lack of evidence of time, place, and victims. Some even had video evidence. With my solid professional knowledge, I knew at a glance that these things could not be faked. But you want to get the answer from me. Can you do it without any benefits? What do my brothers eat? So he smiled and twisted his two fingers, and the old Earl naturally took out a check for £100,000 and put it on the table. The police chief put the check into his pocket and said with a smile, "These are just a part of it. The most serious cases are recorded above, and the minor crimes are all in the archives. Each case includes the time, place, and victim evidence, which all form a whole chain of evidence that cannot be denied. With my 20 years of experience as a policeman, all this evidence is true. This is only the most serious part. The slightly less serious ones are all piled up in the archives, which proves that the male members of the family have committed more than just this little bit of fault. Accumulating bit by bit, everyone on the top of the bones will not be able to walk out of prison for 30 years. This is completely in vain. The Chris family has completely fallen. Who will remember your Chris family if they all serve 30 years in prison?" The old Earl almost fainted because of this sentence. He finally stood firm with the help of the butler, took out a check for £1 million and slammed it on the table. While panting and looking at the leading police officer with red eyes, he said, "Here is a check for £1 million in cash, and it is a bearer cash check that can be exchanged for £1 million in cash at any time. I just want to know one thing. Who is my opponent? Who has such great power to uproot the Chris family?" This question really stumped the leading police officer. Although he is the deputy director of the police station and has considerable power, the conspirators behind him never appeared in front of him. He didn't know who it was, but who wouldn't be jealous when seeing a cash check for £1 million? In the past, I, a small deputy director, was a dog in front of you, an earl. You can kill me at any time, and I dare not mess with you, but now it's the other way around. The leading police officer just smiled and snatched the check from Earl Chris, put it in his pocket and patted it, and then said with a smile, "I'm sorry, Earl Chris, I can't answer your question, because I haven't seen those mysterious people yet. I don't know their origins, but I know there is one person who is the most important member among them. He is also the biggest victim of your family's title. He is the laughingstock of you nobles, the Marquis of Sheffield." After the name Sheffield appeared, Earl Chris knew everything. But what kind of character is the Marquis of Sheffield? Earl Chris knew it clearly. The other party didn't have the ability or the IQ to compete with him. He must have master behind him to get himself to this point today. But this little leading police officer didn't know, and it was useless to ask, and he also wasted a cash check of £1 million. It was really a mistake. It would be much better to give 1 million cash to anyone than to this dog. What role can he play? Baron Chris, who had fallen into silence on the side, heard the name of the Marquis of Sheffield. The light of the soul appeared again. He suddenly raised his head, looked at the leading police officer, and shouted, "It's impossible that it's that Sheffield idiot. I've played him in the palm of my hand. He didn't know it all these years. He doesn't have the ability to compete with the Chris family. The leading police officer only wants to make some grey income for himself and his men. Telling you this is already a special favor. You are yelling at me. Do you think you are still the Baron Chris?" He waved his hands impatiently. On each side, a policeman held Baron Chris and beat him up without thinking twice. Baron Chris screamed in pain. This time he was honest. He saw that Count Chris didn't send out checks or ask questions. He knew that his grey income had stopped. He ordered the door to open and then took Count Chris and his son out of the extraordinarily luxurious study. The moment he walked out of the door, he heard women screaming, men cursing, and children crying throughout the castle. The entire family castle was in chaos. First, Count Chris and his son were stuffed into the police car. Then the leading police officer stood at the gate with the arrest warrant, checked it one by one, and took away all the names on it. Then, all the old, young, women and children of the Chris family, including servants, were cleared out of the Chris family castle and sealed. As for where these old, weak, women and children would stay tonight, that was their business. The police had no right to interfere. Besides, the police didn't want to deal with these rubbish. Chapter 380. At the moment, when Count Chris and his son were taken out of their manor, the baronial manor of Sheffield, which was more than 100 kilometers away from here, fell into a state of cheering and rejoicing. With Count Chris and his son imprisoned, the financial war that took more than 10 days and prepared more than $10 billion officially came to an end, and the next step was the final stage. The biggest victim of this incident, the Marquis of Sheffield, knelt on the ground and cried bitterly. It was not easy to sell his property to the Indian man Bel Singh 2 days ago. Now the Marquis of Sheffield Manor has been officially renamed Singh Manor. Although he has $200 million in his hand, he still has a long way to go to get revenge. But the night is long and dreams are many. The efficiency of the British police and judges is quite low, but the Chris family is deeply rooted. The aristocratic family that has served for hundreds of years is deep-rooted and has many relationships. If you delay any longer, you can't say when he will be able to turn around and be valuable at a rapid speed. When everyone learned that Count Chris and his son had been imprisoned in London prison, they fell into crazy joy. But half an hour later, everyone was still busy with their own things. Now it was up to the British to figure out their methods. Their roots were in India, not in the UK. The Allies, led by Baron Idley, began to act and divided the work among themselves. They had to find lawyers to sue. Some put pressure on the judges, and some collected victims of the Chris family. The British judicial system, which was originally inefficient, actually installed a rocket on its butt this time. 3 days later, the case to be heard in the West District Court of London was the injury case of the Chris family. The Chris family members who appeared in court included Earl Chris and his son, and more than a dozen male members were all present. The biggest victim, the Marquis of Sheffield, handed the evidence of murdering her parents to the court. This was the first case involving more than 20 people, including the Chris family, the father and son of the Marquis of Sheffield, the family butler of the Marquis of Sheffield, and his 2 sons, all appeared in court for trial. Planning the death of Marquis and his wife is a serious crime, and the evidence is irrefutable, plus the Belsina group's bribery at all costs. Although the judge and prosecutors were taking both sides, they would side with whoever paid more. Besides, the facts were clear and the evidence was clear. What was there to deny? In addition, the lawyers hired by Zinj Group were all top-notch and very powerful. After only 1 day of trial, the murder case of the Marquis and his wife of Sheffield was concluded, and the Earl Chris and his son, as well as several important family members, were sentenced. including the Lafite butler who was a traitor. The 3 of them were sentenced to 10 years in prison, and they were required to compensate the Marquis of Sheffield for economic losses of £100 million. But now the Chris family can't come up with the £100 million in compensation. What should they do? The real estate of the shops in their family's hands were discounted. Those that could be auctioned were auctioned, and those that could not be auctioned were discounted to the Marquis of Sheffield as compensation. The London commercial street shop, which was obviously worth more than £1.2 million, was directly discounted by £300,000, and the Chris family lost a lot of money. But if you can't come up with the money, auction your real estate. Otherwise, how can the Marquis of Sheffield get compensation? The judge continued to hear the case. The victim on the second day was not the Marquis of Sheffield, but ordinary people who cried bitterly at the trial. The evidence presented was how the male members of the Chris family relied on the power of the family to be domineering. Among them, there were as many as 360 robberies, 247 cases of rape and mutilation of girls under the age of 13, and more than 1,600 cases of injury. There were 68 homicides, and the rest were all minor crimes, such as taking a fancy to a painting, robbing, beating someone up, hitting someone's pet dog to death, etc. These minor things added up to more than 10,000. It took 4 hours to read out the indictments. Although the journalists present had obtained the complete information of these cases firsthand, everyone who saw the information felt shocked. The crimes of the Chris family can be said to be innumerable. The course of the crime, time, place, process, witnesses, and even many pieces of evidence in each document formed a series. Even if the lawyer hired by the Chris family is eloquent, you can't refute these real evidences, some of which are even video evidence. I don't know what perverted hobbies the male members of the Chris family have, and they took pictures of the crime evidence. Of course, a large part of it was taken by the roadside surveillance system, and the time span is as long as 20 years. I don't know how these evidences were preserved. After reading out these indictments, the court debate and interrogation of witnesses began. At this time, the power of the noble gang led by Baron Adley was revealed. I don't know whether they used coercion or inducement to win over all the servants of the Chris family. At the trial, they turned against the master they were loyal to and pointed out that the crimes of the male members of the Chris family were all facts. Some of them were personally involved by these servants. Others can fake your servants and tell the whole process of the crime. It is consistent with the testimony of the victim. The victim and these accomplices were confronted and admitted that these people were involved. What else can you say? More than 2,700 people were involved in the injury cases, big and small. How much would it cost to compensate £100,000 for each of these 2,700 people? Your Chris family has already converted all the store profits into cash and given it to the Sheffield family as compensation. Now what's left is the family castle and the stocks in hand. What's more, among these 2,700 people, there are serious injuries, rapes, gang rapes, and even murders. The compensation for the victims of various cases is not just £100,000. The total amount of compensation for more than 2,700 victims exceeds £2 billion, which is a sky-high compensation. That's not all. Compensation is compensation. You perpetrators should be punished accordingly, although there is no death penalty in the UK. But it's enough to let you go to jail for several lifetimes. The originally inefficient British judicial system now has boosters installed on its buttocks, and it is rushing up like a rocket. In just 5 days, these cases were tried clearly, and the convictions and sentences were achieved. The father and son of the Chris family received the heaviest sentences. One was sentenced to 720 years, the other was sentenced to 650 years. Don't worry about how many years each was sentenced, but they will never get out in this life. Even if they die, their bones will be buried in prison to continue serving their sentences. When you have served your sentence, your descendants will get your bones out of prison. After 500 years, who knows if there will be anyone in the Chris family? Now 9.5 out of 10 male members of the family are in prison. There are also some fish that slip through the net, but they are all peripheral members. What role can they play? It's cruel enough. Anyway, Count Chris and his son have completely explained their lives. What about the other dozen direct members of the Chris family? The lightest one was sentenced to more than 300 years in prison. There is a person who was sentenced more than Count Chris and his son. That is Chris's nephew. Baron Chris's cousin was sentenced to 900 years in prison. More than 40% of the cases of rape of young girls were involved, and he did it all by himself. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 381. It's time to divide the spoils. In just 10 days, the lowest sentence for all male members of the Chris family was 300 years, and the highest was 900 years. Anyway, all the direct family members in prison can't get out. I don't know how much bribes the judge received from the Sheffield family, but he actually arranged for the entire Corliss family to serve their sentences in a prison on a Pacific island far away from the British mainland. Now all the members of the Chris family are serving their sentences in this island prison, including the 3 scums of the Sheffield family. It stands to reason that such a mistake cannot happen in the British Judicial Department. It must be man-made. Of course, this is something that only the judge who took a huge bribe from the Marquis of Sheffield would do. Why do this? That is to gather these people together to facilitate Baron Sheffield's revenge. This is not the end. Baron Sheffield's second half of his life is to avenge these enemies in exchange for pleasure, the only motivation for survival, plus the bad seed Belsina's instigation. Let the Marquis of Sheffield suddenly turn from a blank sheet of paper into a large piece of black cloth. This kid now holds a huge amount of compensation for the Chris family in his hands. There was also the $200 million from the sale of Sheffield Manor. Some of the money was tens of millions of dollars, and they actually took all the traitors of the Chris family and the Sheffield family to the island. Not to mention that they even took all the 100 most perverted people from the top 10 prisons in the UK. The newly hired butler of the Marquis of Sheffield was also very powerful. He was 1,000 times better than the so-called Lafite butler. After receiving the order from his master, the Marquis of Sheffield, he came to the island, where the prison was located one step ahead, to go to the island for the Marquis of Sheffield. He laid a firm foundation, bought houses and land, and bribed the local prisons. Anyway, all the logistics departments were taken care of. Belsina, who was about to become a father, had a stronger and stronger affection for the children. On the night when the Chris family was sentenced, he found Sheffield sitting alone on the balcony drinking. He patted him on the shoulder and told him what a father should do. Although you used to live a decadent life, the illegitimate children left behind made you a laughingstock of the nobility, but these children have your blood in their bodies, your bloodline. They are your sons and daughters. You were a nobody before, only caring about eating, drinking and having fun without considering the feelings of your children. That's how Butler Raphael succeeded in his conspiracy. Is this what a father should do? You should make up for the mistakes you made before, and don't make more mistakes. You have so much money in your pocket that you can't spend it all in your lifetime. Do you still have the heart to let your dozen illegitimate children suffer outside and be looked down upon by others? After hearing Belsina's scolding, Lord Sheffield finally sobered up and drank the last sip of whiskey in the glass. Then he smiled and patted Belsina on the shoulder and said, "Singer, I know what to do. Don't worry, I won't abandon any of these children. I will spend the rest of my life to make up for what I owe these children, even though I used to be a playboy and a worthless person. But among the women I have come into contact with, there are many good wives and mothers, and there are also good women. I will start a family and raise all the children by my side. This is the responsibility of man. The adults are the ones who are wrong. The children are innocent. No adults like you have made mistakes. Where did they come from? What's the big deal about correcting mistakes? Is it more important than losing your life?" After the case was closed the next day, the 6 people of Baron Adree's gang gathered again in the study of Baron Adree's family castle to hold a meeting. This time it was a meeting to divide the spoils. Now the Chris family has been uprooted by a few people. Although it took more than half a month and involved more than $1 billion, the benefits are very generous. As the saying goes, a good man cannot be rich without external wealth, and a horse cannot be fat without night grass. What is external wealth? It is a business without capital. It is much faster to bring down other families and turn their assets into your assets than to work hard to make money. Uprooting the Count Chris family, such a big tree has fallen, and it is time for the participating families to divide the spoils. Because of the ugly words in front, although these 6 people are a newly gathered group of allies, they all have a good impression on each other, and everyone cooperates very smoothly. There are not so many unpleasant communications. What several people want has been approved by everyone before they take action. What else is there to say? Divide the spoils, divide the spoils, divide the spoils. The stocks of the world famous brands held by the Chris family were all taken by the Belsina family. The actual price of these stocks is now more than $250 million US. Pay $250 million US to give these stocks to the other 5 families. Then go to the Chris family castle tomorrow to see all the artworks that you like and all the wines in the wine cellar. Move them all to the location of the Singer family castle. As for the Chris castle, their family's land, shops and other real estate are all the income of the other allies. Everyone was very happy to get their share. This was an unexpected fortune, and a large amount of it. Who wouldn't be happy? After dividing the stolen money from the Chris family, the next step was to divide the profits from the stock market. Last time, I said that if you buy stocks and the stock market really goes up, you make money. If you buy stocks and the stock market goes down, you still make money. After so much effort, the Chris family was finally brought down. The total amount of cash income was more than £500 million. The sources of these funds are, first, the stock market, second, the proceeds from the auction of those shops, third, the cash obtained after the goods stored in those shops are processed, and another part is the cash that the Chris family puts in the bank. Then someone will ask, the Chris family has committed so many crimes, isn't the compensation £2 billion? Where can there be so much money? Put it in the hands of people like Belsina. There are so many people waiting to share this money. Can you guys still get the money? Otherwise, how can you say that the darkness of the nobles is here? Compensation is one thing, but whether your victims can get the money is another thing. We 6 families spent so much effort to bring down the Chris family and invested so much. To ensure our profits is the first priority. Anyway, we did not harm you, the victims. Our profits are guaranteed, and the rest is yours. As for whether there will be anything left, it depends on God's will. We will eat first, and the rest will belong to these victims. If we can't eat, you victims will not get a penny. In the end, Belsina received £80 million in cash. He invested so many dollars. He made a fortune in the stock market. Almost all the costs were covered, and he also got stocks of major companies worth $250 million US. 10 years later, it would be a light thing for these $250 million US of stocks to rise tenfold. In other words, Belsina invested in the war against the Chris family, and almost $10 billion US were recovered. In the end, he made £80 million, a Sheffield manor, and the Chris family's collections and the liquid gold in the underground wine cellar. He didn't lose any money, and he made a lot. Chapter 382, 50-year-old whiskey. Look at how smart Belsina is in this business. Who can compare with him? Although the money earned is only £80 million, the value of those things is not much less than this £80 million in cash. Of course, there is no one in the entire Belsina family who has professional knowledge of Western oil paintings or antiques. It is also impossible to tell which oil painting is real and which one is fake and how much value it has. If you don't understand it yourself, can't you ask someone else? Belsina has a long-term cooperative relationship with Christie's and Sotheby's auction houses, and the 2 parties are in the honeymoon period. Can't the 2 auction houses help with this little favor? Besides, it's not in vain to use your people. I will pay them for their work. So the next day after the division of the spoils, Belsina brought 5 other allies and art appraisal experts from 2 auction houses to rush into the Chris family's castle. Now the Chris family castle has been sealed up, but the families that won the lawsuit have the right to dispose of any items in the castle. Otherwise, why would he go to such great lengths? Besides, why was Belsina so anxious? It was because Lina in the hospital was about to give birth, and his eldest son was about to be born. He didn't have time to waste time with you old men. He should quickly put his income into his own pocket. He should cover it tightly and not let others steal it. Then he should quickly withdraw his people. The other allies, especially Baron Adri, also knew what Belsinger was like now. He had motors installed on his feet. He didn't have time to chat with you old men here. Accompanying his wife and children was the most important thing. So although it was urgent, these allies were very considerate of everyone being together, and the Chris family class teacher became a very good friend. Of course, to become friends with these people, it depends on whether your family's strength can reach the other party's level. Although the Singh family is based in India, they are rich. The capable family has a large number of capable subordinates who are qualified to be their friends, and the two sides are still very good friends. If there is any good thing, they can gather together to attack. Good man. Everyone likes to talk about ill-gotten gains, and it is not easy to change this habit. When they arrived at the Chris family castle, without Belsinger's instructions, the human mule Brook kicked the sealed wooden door open with one kick. Then the 60-year-old butler acted like a 20-year-old young man, and the art appraisal experts seconded from the two auction houses rushed into the castle. The speed was like a gust of wind, and it was not like a 60-year-old man was faster than a 20-year-old boy. It was like a bandit entering Alibaba's gold treasure hidden in the cave, and the scene fell into chaos. Under the command of the old butler, the members of the Singh family collected all the artworks hanging on the wall, and placed everywhere in the hall. Regardless of the size of the oil painting, and the state of the artwork, they all gathered in the living room of the castle like a gust of wind. Then the old butler personally took charge, and led the art appraisal experts from the other two auction houses to support. Each oil painting, and each artwork was carefully identified and explained. How much is the value of these artworks? How much is it worth specifically? The whole castle was in chaos like a bandit raid, but an agreement was made in advance that the Singh family could only take those priceless artworks, and the remaining less valuable artworks would be given to others. There are a total of 120 paintings that are famous all over the world, all of which are worth more than £1 million. There are only 12 paintings with an auction amount of more than £3 million, which adds up to a total of 132 paintings, all of which were taken by the Singh family. In addition, after Belsinger specifically instructed, the old butler has taken all the antique artworks related to China in the hands of the Chris family. All these things were taken back, no matter how much they are worth. That's why the master of the family cares so much about these Chinese artworks. But can the master not do it if the butler has ordered it? As for those African things, masks, statues, animal products, furs, including rhinoceros horns and ivory, they are not wanted. It took 2 hours to identify these things, pack them and transport them in 1 or 2 trucks. When the Singer family members were looting Chris Castle like bandits, what was our protagonist Belsinger doing? He took the human flesh Lowbrook and went straight to the underground wine cellar. Belsinger had been coveting the underground wine cellar of the Chris family, which had an older heritage than the Sheffield family. In particular, he had not tasted the ice crystal nectar wine that he had long admired. The Sheffield family had 100 kilograms of ice crystal nectar wine in storage. The Chris family, which had a long heritage, must have more, but Belsinger was dumbfounded when he arrived at the wine cellar. He searched the entire wine cellar inside and out, but did not find a kilogram of ice crystal nectar wine. The Chris family had a long heritage, but it did not prove that the Chris family liked this kind of ice crystal nectar wine. So it was normal that there was no storage. Belsinger was disappointed for less than 5 minutes before his excitement returned. Why was he excited? That was because he saw the treasures, and these treasures were not much worse than those so-called ice crystal nectar wines. So what are these treasures? The underground wine cellar of the Chris family is 1/3 larger than the underground wine cellar of the Sheffield family castle. The wine collection is also very rich. How rich is it? It is considered to be the world's famous wine, and you can find it here. In particular, the favorite whiskies of Chris family members are all top whiskies that have been stored for more than 50 years. They are packed in large oak barrels, and the total weight reaches an astonishing 20 tons. Others are measured by bottles, and they are measured by tons. Do you think this can be compared? I don't know what the British think. The top whiskey is actually aged in second-hand oak barrels from Bordeaux wineries in France. This is the best. I like these second-hand oak barrels, and these whiskies are all loaded with oak barrels. They are all black old oak barrels. The volume of each oak barrel is as high as 225 liters, that is, 225 kilograms. In addition, LUO's full. It is very difficult to carry. When the other people learned that Belsinger had found 20 tons of top quality whiskey that had been stored for more than 50 years, unable to sit still, he went to the underground wine cellar and begged and pleaded with everyone to take 2 barrels. Although he lost some, he also reduced his burden. Whiskey is a strong liquor. He could not drink 20 tons of it in his lifetime. It would be nice to give it to these friends as a favor. After the oak barrels were moved out, Belsinger finally saw what was stored in the space behind the oak barrels. Wow, it was all stored with Chinese liquors of all sizes with red paper on them. And every time Singer saw the names of these liquors, his heart would twitch. It's not that these liquors are special, but they are too good. All the well-known brands of liquor in China can be found here. Even the collections of drunkards in China who drink liquor as water are not necessarily more complete than this. All the 10 famous liquors are here, and the quantity is very large. Compared with this, the liquors collected by the Sheffield family are simply shabby. Chapter 383, Liquor that can never be finished in a lifetime. Belsinger loves to eat and drink, and has almost zero resistance to delicious food and wine. Of course, he is also lustful. But when he saw the liquor stored in the Chris family's wine cellar, even the well-informed and famous drunkard Belsinger was dumbfounded. The varieties of these liquors are really too complete. To what extent? The top 10 liquors in China are stored here in large quantities. Belsinger can't see the specific number of these top 10 liquors now, because there are many jars of different sizes. But Belsinger knows the names above. The top 10 most famous liquors in China are Fengjiu from Shaanxi, Huameo from Guizhou, Zifeng liquor from Shaanxi, Gujingangjiu, Laoshao Laojiao, Jiananshan, Yangdakwa, Langjiu, Wuliangai from Yibin, and a name that everyone is unfamiliar with, that is Shuangaodakwa. These are well-known brands of the top 10 liquors in China. There are so many piles that you can't count them, but these liquors have one feature. That is, their packaging is of uniform specifications, and the smallest is a small brown jar of 5 pounds. There are also jars weighing 10 jin, 50 jin, and 100 jin. The largest one is a wine vat weighing 500 jin. 3 people may not be able to carry it. Without large tools, you can't get this 500 jin wine vat out of the wine cellar. Moreover, the storage age of these 10 famous wines varies. The lowest is 60 years old, and the highest is Fengjiu from Shaanxi, which is more than 200 years old. These are all century-old wines, and they are all original wines without blending. The alcohol content is very strong. Even if you drink a gin of liquor for 3 meals a day, you can't finish it in your lifetime. Belsinger is closer to these wines than to his own mother. Fortunately, there are several other bandits, including Baron Adri. They are not very interested in these Chinese liquors. Chinese liquors are too strong. They can't drink them, and don't like to drink them. They are all cheap for themselves. The happy Belsinger wanted to give them 2 more barrels of whiskey. These Chinese liquors were eaten into my stomach. If I wanted to take them out, it would cost me my life. Otherwise, no one would think of making me spit out even a little bit. It was just a move. Since these liquors were very fragile in the jars, I was very careful when moving them. Fortunately, I brought many people and cars with me, and I was well prepared, so there was no delay. There were more than 50 porters, and they were all strong male porters. Each of them had professional tools in his hands. 2 jars of 50 kilograms of liquor could be moved at a time. They were placed in the truck in the form of a conveyor belt, filled with foam in the middle, and then transported away. As for the 500 kilogram sea of wine, what should I do? Isn't there a small forklift? There is a lot of wine. Fortunately, the Chris family wine cellar is different from others. Its opening is the basement in the castle, and the opening on the other side is a crane placed in the middle of the wine cellar, which is responsible for transporting various types of wine up and down. It is specially set up for convenience, and now it has helped me a lot. The one-time lifting capacity reached more than 10 tons, which was not slow. The piled up wine jars, like snow encountering a sunny day, began to decrease rapidly. They began to melt layer by layer rapidly. Looking at the people coming in and out, Belsina was in a very good mood. Just for these liquors, this time the financial war with the Chris family was not fought in vain. Just for these liquors, I will fight the Chris family to the end. Of course, when the war was launched, Belsina didn't know that the Chris family had so many cellars of wine. Now it's cheap for me. I have to take the wine and call it the liquid gold inside. Otherwise these liquors will be cheap for those bastards. The family brought these servants, and they all became commanders. Only the human mule Brook stayed by his side. Standing and watching in the wine transportation channel would definitely affect the speed of transportation, so Belsina took Brook and walked around with a flashlight behind the piled up wine jars to see if there was anything else to find. Behind the piles of wine jars, I really found a lot of good things, such as a wine jar that is in sharp contrast with the wine jars loaded with white wine. That is the wine jar dedicated to Sheoxing rice wine. It looks dirty on the outside, but it is actually clean inside. The storage capacity of these Sheoxing rice wines is comparable to that of each type of white wine. And the red paper on it is obviously Nverhang. Nverhang is the first brand of Sheoxing rice wine. When it comes to rice wine, you have to mention Nverhang. But there are more than one brand of rice wine. There is also Huadio. These types of rice wine are loaded in small jars of 50 kilograms. There are many magical things in the land of China. When Chinese wine just started to rise, the first wine that appeared was rice wine. Then came the rise of white wine. There was rice wine first, and then white wine. Therefore, Sheoxing rice wine has been passed down for a long time. Even if you drink a lot of rice wine, it will not harm your body when you are drunk. As strong as white wine, it is gentle and very suitable for the small mood of Jiangnan. The taste of rice wine is special. If you like to drink it, it must be like drinking nectar. If you don't like to drink, that's just the way it is. After all, Huadio wine is used for cooking. In his previous life, Belsina was a typical Chinese who liked to drink white wine, but he had been envious of Sheoxing's daughter's red wine for a long time. But because he was short of money, he had never drunk it. Now that he has it, he will drink it freely. Of course, it's not the case now. Going around the mountain of wine jars made of yellow wine, what comes into view is a large sea of wine, which is even larger than those 500 jin seas of wine. There are 50 of these seas of wine neatly stacked in the innermost part of the Chris family wine cellar. Others don't recognize the labels on these seas of wine, but Belsina, who was a Chinese in his previous life, doesn't recognize them. These large seas of wine weighing thousands of pounds are specially used to soak medicinal wine. Why doesn't the aged wine use 1000 jin wine? It's also because it's too inconvenient to move. It's different when used to soak medicinal wine. First, 1000 jin sea of wine can carry enough wine, and second, it takes a long time to purify the medicinal wine. To improve the medicinal power, it is common to leave a jar of medicinal wine there for decades without moving. What is unexpected is that there is no dust on these 1000 jin wine seas. It seems that someone has been cleaning these wine seas for a long time. There is also a pure gold faucet installed in the center of the bottom of the wine sea. This pure gold faucet is installed at the bottom of the wine sea. After turning on the faucet, the medicinal wine that has been soaked in the sea for many years will flow down. The seal on the wine sea is not damaged at all, but you can drink the medicinal wine at will without worrying about the excessive contact between the medicinal wine and the air, which will cause the medicinal wine to lose its efficacy. It is really ingenious. Who came up with this good trick? Could it be that the Chris family did not use Chinese liquor, but did use the long-standing Chinese tradition? Otherwise, it would be impossible to put a pure gold faucet in the wine steel. Belsina came here with interest to find out the whole story and twists and turns. Fortunately, a big red wine introduction was posted on each wine sea. What kind of medicinal wine is in this wine sea? The age of brewing, the number of medicinal materials and the number of effects are all clearly recorded for you. There is also something like a folder hanging on the side. When you open it, it turns out that every time a family member of the Chris family drank these medicinal wines, they have been registered. Chapter 384, Special Medicinal Wine, Part 1. The more Belsinger looked, the more frightened he became. Don't think that 50 kinds of medicinal wine are just because there are 50 large wine seas that can hold 1000 kilograms of wine. That's wrong. There are only 5 kinds of medicinal wine here, which means that there are more than 10 bottles of each kind of medicinal wine, and the total weight exceeds 10,000 kilograms. Moreover, the age of these medicinal wines is at least more than 80 years, and the most is 130 years. The raw materials used are quite sophisticated. Many Chinese herbal medicines or animal medicines have become extinct in China. Even if they are not extinct, they have become protected animals. You can kill them before liberation, but now you can only think about it. The ingredients of these 5 medicinal wines are extremely sophisticated. So what are they? The first kind of medicinal wine is turtle and deer wine, which you may have heard of. But its ingredients are not so popular. Turtle and deer wine. In addition to 10 rare Chinese herbal medicines, there are 2 raw materials that are top quality raw materials that modern people can only dream of. The first one is the golden tortoise, and all of them are golden tortoises over 50 years old. After catching such a golden coin turtle, they are not bled or harmed, but directly soaked in wine, allowing the high purity liquor to slowly release all the nutrients in the golden coin turtle. Of course, it is a bit cruel, as it can kill the turtle. Another raw material is the extremely precious sika deer, and they are all male sika deer of 10 years old. Everyone knows that deer antler is originally a very precious Chinese herbal medicine, but the medicinal materials used to make this turtle and deer wine are not as simple as deer antler, but all the useful parts of the male sika deer, including deer antler, deer penis, deer bone, deer blood, all the nutritious parts of the sika deer are taken, plus the 50-year-old golden coin turtle. You can imagine how much health value this medicinal wine has. A wine sea has a carrying capacity of 1000 kilograms and uses 10 male sika deer, 50-year-old golden coin turtles, and more than 100 kilograms of various rare medicinal materials to make a jar of wine. After a long period of mellowing and soaking, all the precious ingredients in the medicinal materials are purified. Such wine can only be drunk in a small cup, no more than 5 grams twice a day. If you drink too much, you will have to go to the hospital. Nosebleeds are considered light. So what is the health value of such turtle and deer wine? It is written above that it is magical. It nourishes the male body and improves various body functions. It is not as simple as ordinary aphrodisiac wine, but is specifically used to supplement various deficiencies in the male body. The second type of wine is called deer placenta wine. If you have studied Chinese medicine, you should know deer placenta paste. In particular, the deer placenta paste produced in the primitive forests of northeast China is a health product for women. It nourishes yin and improves various body functions. It is combined with dongjijio, which is the best female health product. So is the deer placenta wine here made from the deer placenta paste produced in northeast China? Yes, it is made from deer placenta paste. The raw materials of deer placenta paste are unborn sika deer plus placenta and amniotic fluid, etc., which are not wasted at all. The deep red viscous paste made by boiling is equivalent to 10 teals of gold in ancient times, not to mention now. Moreover, the various raw materials needed to boil deer placenta paste are extremely precious, one of which is ginseng, the king of herbs. And it must be an old mountain ginseng that is more than 100 years old to quickly improve the medicinal power of the deer placenta paste. In other words, the sponsors of deer placenta wine are all women. It is the best tonic wine for nourishing women's bodies. How is this deer placenta wine brewed? The capacity of each wine sea is 1000 gin, and the amount of deer placenta paste is 2 sets, plus various medicinal materials for nourishing women. There are also 2 old mountain ginsengs that are more than 100 years old. The color of this deer placenta wine is golden red, like the color of roses, and it exudes a faint golden light. It looks very beautiful, but it tastes very strong. It has some animal smell, but its effect on nourishing women is amazing. You don't need to drink more. Drinking 2 cups a week is equivalent to 10 grams. Women's body functions are improved, especially for parturients who encounter many dangers during childbirth. Healing is a holy product, which will quickly replenish the body's loss. The name of the third kind of wine is Sanbian wine. Everyone knows that Zhangjiu Winery has produced a kind of Zhangjiu Sanbian wine. It is a holy product for male tonic, but most of the raw materials used in Zhangjiu Sanbian wine are dog whips, such as sea dog whips. But the 3-whip wine made by the powerful Chris family is a product of more than 100 years ago. The raw materials used are extremely particular. There are only 3 kinds of raw materials for Sanbian wine. One is the baby of a 10-year-old male Siberian tiger, that is, the northeast tiger. The second raw material is the reproductive system of male sika deer. The third raw material is very strange. Why is it strange? Because it uses the reproductive system of a northeast brown bear. Everyone knows that bear bile is an extremely precious Chinese medicine product because brown bears are ferocious and cannot be hunted by ordinary people. If you want to hunt it, you have to fill it with human lives. There is a saying in the northeast called 1 pig, 2 bears and 3 tigers. That is to say, in the forests of northeast China, the most powerful is not the tiger, but the wild boar. A single male wild boar is the most difficult to mess with. This kind of wild boar is not only very large, but also has 2 dagger-like fangs on both sides of its mouth. The most terrifying thing is that its physical fitness is simply abnormal. Why do I say that? Because this wild boar is very large in size. Other wild boars like to roll in the mud, but his way of scratching is very strange, rubbing against pine trees. Everyone knows that pine trees will secrete a kind of resin, which is very sticky. The wild boars that rubbed pine branches and rolled in the mud will form an indestructible layer of armor on their epidermis. Hundreds of years ago, the muskets could not be killed in one shot unless they hit the vital points, so wild boars are the kings in the forest. The second very powerful animal is the brown bear. Don't look at his large size, fat and naive appearance. In fact, the brown bear moves silently in the forest. If he wants to launch a sneak attack, you can't detect it. You can only hear the sound of running when he comes behind you and launches a surprise attack. Only then will they tell you about the danger behind you, but it is too late to react at that time, especially since the 2 front paws of the brown bear are so powerful. With 1 claw, not only can a person be killed, but even a tiger can be killed. The third one is the famous Siberian tiger. Although tigers are very ferocious in eating meat, they are not as good as the first 2 creatures. It is true that tigers prey on wild boars, but they usually prey on minors or sows. They will run away when they see the male wild boars that act alone and wear airtight armor. The raw materials of Sanbian wine are tiger whips, bear whips, and sika deer whips, with 3 of the 10 most precious medicinal materials. The indispensable ones are old mountain ginseng, that is more than 100 years old, and the best ones are Polygonum multiflorum, that is more than 100 years old, and grows into human form. Another raw material is very common in the northeast, called forest frog oil. With the economic development in recent years, forest frog oil has become a very good health product, but it was everywhere in those days. You can beat roe deer with a stick and scoop fish with a ladle. When pheasants fly into the rice pot, there are frogs everywhere. Ranitri oil is the reproductive system of female ranitri. Each ranitri is as big as a fist. Then, the abdomen is discarded, the ranitri oil is taken out, and dried for later use. Chapter 385, Special Medicinal Wine Part 2. This kind of Sanbian wine with exquisite ingredients is a holy product tailored for men, to strengthen their sexual performance. The amount of each citation cannot exceed 5 grams. That is, a small sip. You have to drink it once every 3 days, otherwise you will be burning with desire. The 4th kind of medicinal wine is very strange. It is used to treat injuries and rheumatic joint pain. The ingredients can be said to be very different among medicinal wines. The name is Eagle Claw Medicinal Wine. The main raw material used is a very powerful bird of prey called golden eagle living in Russia and northeast China. It must be the claws of a male golden eagle. Friends who know about the golden eagle know that the golden eagle is a very powerful bird of prey with a wingspan of more than 2 meters. It can catch creatures as big as wolves, but this creature is very strange. The female is larger than the male. In other words, the female is the most powerful golden eagle. So why is this eagle claw medicinal wine made from the claws of the 2nd level male golden eagle? There is a reason for this. Although the male golden eagle is not as big as the female golden eagle, and not as strong as the female golden eagle, but its claws are unique. The claws of adult male golden eagles are golden yellow, but the males are black, filled with some precious liquid. Although female golden eagles are fierce and very brave when catching large prey, the main job of female golden eagles is reproduction. Stay in the nest to protect the little golden eagle. He will go out hunting only when food is extremely scarce or in winter. In summer, the main hunting task falls on the male golden eagle. The male golden eagle needs to feed his strong wife, feed his children and himself, and the time for repairing the cracks every day exceeds 20 hours. In addition, the main weapon of the golden eagle's hunting is the pair of eagle claws. Isn't the eagle claw skill evolved from imitating the power of the eagle when hunting? More than 20 hours a day, the prey hunted is large and small. There are so many frequent attacks, which is an invisible damage to the claws of the male golden eagle. Is it over fatigue? Then the male golden eagle can still feed the whole family and make the whole family fat under such exhaustion because there is a special substance in its claws. The repair ability is very strong. As long as the main leg bone is not broken, the golden eagle can restore the attack power of its claws within 3 days. Even if a nail is lost or the little finger is broken, it is fine. It is because of these special substances on the golden eagle's claws that it has medicinal value. You can imagine that, although a golden eagle is very large, most of them are supported by feathers. His weight is not more than that of a big rooster. Although its claws are powerful, the weight is very thin, and it is equivalent to skin and bones. In addition, the golden eagle can fly all over the world, so it is extremely difficult to catch it. Moreover, if you want to collect a pair of golden eagle claws, you need 10 pairs of golden eagle claws. The difficulty can be imagined. 10 male golden eagles are needed to contribute to one set of medicine. You can imagine how precious it is. It can promote blood circulation and remove blood stasis. It is a medicine that cures the disease. It is especially suitable for rheumatic joint pain in middle-aged and elderly people. It is the best health wine. The second very precious raw material of this eagle claw medicinal wine is the bear paw of the northeast black bear. 3 kinds of bears live in the cold Siberia. One is polar bears living near the Arctic Circle, and the other is brown bears and black bears. Their living areas are intertwined, but black bears have a characteristic that they are much smaller than brown bears. Because black bears are small, they are often bullied by other animals, especially the main opponents brown bears and tigers. This allows brown bears to hone a skill that is very enviable to the two animals. That is climbing trees. No matter how big the black bear is, whether it is an adult or a young one, it will climb trees, and the speed of climbing trees is very fast. A male black bear can weigh hundreds of kilograms. With the efforts of its 2 front paws, it can climb trees as fast as lightning. How huge is the power of its front paws? Of course, the preparation of medicine is mysterious. Although the size of the bear paw is large and the medicinal value is also rich, the black bear paws used to make eagle claw medicinal wine only need 5 pairs of 10. It is not to kill the bear, look at its paws, and soak the blood, flesh, and fur in the wine. That is not right. Instead, it needs to be specially processed. If it is not hygienic, this is not a medicinal wine, but a poisonous wine. In addition, some blood activating and blood dispersing drugs are added to make the eagle claw medicinal wine. You can drink this medicinal wine, but you can also use it to wipe joint pain, and take it both internally and externally. The last kind of medicinal wine is also very interesting. It is called dragon and tiger fight. Everyone should know what a dragon is by hearing the name. Dragon is a snake, and tiger, as the name suggests, is the largest Siberian tiger. Dragon and tiger fight is a medicinal wine made from snakes and tigers. This understanding is correct, but it is not easy to collect the raw materials for making dragon and tiger fight medicinal wine. One is in the south and the other is in the north. The body of the king cobra is used. Everyone knows that the reason why the king cobra got the name of the king snake is because it is very ferocious. Not only is it large in size, but it is also highly toxic. The most important thing is that its food is all kinds of venomous snakes. That is to say, the king cobra is a kind of snake that specializes in eating snakes and is the king of snakes. The other raw material is in the north. That is, the Siberian tiger, one in the south and one in the north. If you want to get these 2 raw materials together, you can't do it without money and power. So how is this dragon and tiger fight medicinal wine made? A sea of wine is a unit of measurement, that is, the medicinal materials soaked in a sea of wine is a pair. The raw materials for brewing the dragon tiger fighting medicinal wine. A pair of medicine requires 10 adult male king cobras, preferably those with a body length of more than 5 meters. King cobras with a body length of more than 5 meters are all adult snakes, more than 10 years old. Another main raw material for a pair is the Siberian tiger. This time, not only the male organs are used, but all parts of the male tiger are used, including tiger skin and muscles. The only waste is the hair on the body, which must be plucked. Of course, because the king cobra has scales and no hair, it is soaked in the medicinal wine as a whole, and it must be alive. After being soaked in high concentration medicinal wine, the king cobra will be choked to death and its lungs will rupture, so the blood and bile all over the body will flow back into the high purity liquor, which can improve the medicinal properties. Then, of course, the male Siberian tigers were shaved, split in half, and all the skin, bones, and internal organs were soaked in the medicinal wine. One set of medicine is 10 male king cobras, and the other set is a 10-year-old male Siberian tiger. In addition to the main ingredients of king cobras and Siberian tigers, the medicinal wine of Lang Hudao has 5 auxiliary ingredients. One is the bile of brown bears, another is the horn of Indian rhinoceros, the musk produced by musk oxen, the pearl powder of South China Sea, and the last one is a bit scary, which is the centipede. The formula of all the medicinal wines of Lang Hudao is animal medicine. Although pearls are minerals, they are substances produced by pearl oysters. This can be formed. In the final analysis, it is still an animal medicine. The ingredients of Lang Hudao medicinal wine are extremely exquisite and precious. What is its function? To nourish men's body. This is not aphrodisiac wine. Instead, it nourishes the various functions of a man's body, strengthens the body, improves body microcirculation, eliminates toxins, makes men more energetic, has stronger physical fitness, and prolongs their life. Chapter 386. It's a joke. The ingredients of the 5 kinds of medicinal wine are extremely exquisite. There are some suitable for women to nourish yin, some suitable for men to strengthen yang, and some to nourish the body. There are some suitable for the health of the elderly, but there is no suitable for children. When Belsina saw the introduction of these medicinal wine recipes, he was surprised and incoherent. But when he checked the amount of wine, he was dumbfounded. He didn't know whether the Chris family were all alcoholics, or they just liked to drink Chinese medicinal wine. So many bastards drank the storage capacity of 3 wine seas, which is 3,000 kilograms of precious medicinal wine. You are not afraid of being poisoned. Why do you drink so much? But when you see the introduction sheet, the time comparison table of each time you take the medicinal wine, you know that the Chris family drinks a lot. But they have been drinking for more than 100 years. For such a large family, it takes more than 100 years to drink 3,000 gold. How many people are there in your Belsina family? These medicinal wines are enough for your family to drink for 500 years. Of course, Belsina is just distressed. It's good to have so many gains. What else do you want? So the 10,000 jin of medicinal wine has now become 7,000 jin, and the other 3 wine seas are empty, but the precious medicinal materials in them are now out of reach. Even if you are rich, you can't get such a complete set of medicinal materials. It is a pity to throw them away, but there is no one in my family who can use Chinese herbal medicine. As the saying goes, medicine is 3-point poison, not to mention that these medicinal materials have been soaked in wine for a long time, and all the medicinal power is contained in the wine. It is useless, whether you want it or not. But this wine sea cannot be thrown away. Such a large wine jar is really too rare. You must take it back. Brook, the human mule, looked at his master, all kinds of wonderful reactions and face changes. He was a little confused, happy and angry at the same time. Seeing that the master became calm, he asked carefully, "Master, what happened to you just now? Why are your emotions so volatile? What are these big pottery jars filled with? Whatever is in it, it is a treasure." Although the Indians are called an ancient civilized country, compared with the level of Chinese medicine in China, they are still primitive. It's really unclear that they have occupied such a good place for nothing, but they still rely on witchcraft and shamanic curses to solve the problem. They are all ancient civilizations, so why is there such a big gap? Of course, the human mule Brook is an important member of the family, and it is reasonable for him to ask a question. As a master, he should explain to his subordinates, why did he change his face just now? Otherwise, I would think he was mentally ill, so he said with a smile, you know what? These are all medicinal wines, and the ingredients are extremely precious. They are everywhere. Many medicines have become extinct and cannot be found anymore. It's not wrong to say that these medicinal wines are liquid gold. The human mule Brook sneered and disagreed with his master's words, so he refuted. Master, you are not exaggerating. I have heard of medicinal wine. To be honest, I doubt whether soaking all kinds of things in wine can have medicinal value. It's good enough if you don't get poisoned. Oh, it's surprising to see that the human mule Brook actually made such a statement. What do you, an Indian, know? If these medicinal wines were really drugs, would the Chris family have used them for hundreds of years? Wouldn't they all be poisoned to death? It's really nonsense to speculate without knowing the facts clearly. Don't you sneer at these drugs? Don't you believe it? Well, I'll let you feel it. I don't know what Belsina was thinking. He actually picked up a small crystal cup on the golden faucet. He turned on the faucet and took a small cup. He handed the 3-whip wine to the human mule Brook and said with a smirk, since you know it and still think these medicines are useless, then try it. I'm sure you know how good it works. But I remind you, don't blame me if you go crazy. The human mule Brook looked down on the efficacy of the medicinal wine and thought it was all nonsense. So many herbs and animals were put together, it would become a drug. Out of loyalty to his master, the human mule Brook risked himself. He would poison himself to death, but not his master. Just like Jinke stabbing the king of kin, the wind whistled, and the Ishu river was cold, and he would never return. He picked up the wine glass and drank it with a gulp. The passionate look touched Belsina, and at the same time he felt very funny. If you don't trust me, you will be crazy. Of course, why did the human mule Brook have such a generous expression? Belsina knew it clearly. How could such a loyal subordinate put him in danger? After seeing the human mule Brook generously drink the 3 whips of wine, he patted his shoulder and laughed. Boy, why don't you feel that your lower abdomen is very hot? Brook curled his lips a few times after drinking the wine. Except for some strange taste, there was no special feeling. As for whether it is poisonous, only time can determine it. Hearing the master's question, he really felt that there was a fire burning in his abdomen. He stared at his master with a pair of big eyes and asked innocently, Master, how do you know? You didn't drink it. How do you know that this medicine will form a warm air mass in the abdomen? Is it poisonous? Looking at the surprised look of Brook, the human mule with a pair of toad eyes, Belsina laughed, then patted his shoulder, and said with a smirk, what kind of poison is it? You are lucky today, and you are just beginning to react. You will know what it means to be crazy in a while. Get out of here, and find some women outside to solve the problem. In the UK, prostitutes in brothels are legally operated, and prostitution is not illegal. Both parties are fair and no one will check your room. Originally, Brook was still looking at his master stupidly, not understanding what his aunt meant by these words, but within a few seconds, he felt that his key parts began to react. Only then did he understand what his master meant by what he said. He didn't expect that these medicinal wines were so powerful. Less than a minute after drinking, he had a reaction. He stood beside his master with a red face and thick neck, and said shyly, the master is in great need of people right now. How can I leave you and the family members to go out and have fun? You'd better wait a while. I will go after all the problems are solved. If you wait any longer, you will turn into a werewolf. The drug is so strong that, if it is not solved in time, it will definitely cause problems. This is related to the lifelong happiness of the human mule Brook. Belsina dare not joke about it. What if the right to happiness in life of his important subordinate is really ruined? So he kicked the human mule Brook in the back, beating and scolding him. Why are you talking so much nonsense? I told you to go quickly. I can't go back tonight. If you can't make it in time, you have to leave by yourself tomorrow morning. Chapter 387. It really works. Although these things are easy to handle, they are too big. Even a 20-ton truck can only carry 2 wine bottles at a time. After all, these things are easy to break, and sponges and other insulating plants must be filled in the middle. Otherwise, if the truck is broken, the loss will be huge. It was not until after 10 o'clock in the evening that only 1/3 of the wine was taken away, and the remaining 2/3 was still missing. As the sky was getting darker, the old butler found Belsina in the wine cellar. Unexpectedly, he saw Belsina personally rolling up his sleeves and helping the workers to carry jars of huakshabejiu. He was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. While pulling Belsina back, he said in a reproachful manner, "Master, why did you do it yourself? Where did the damn human mule brook go? Wait until I catch this bastard. I will see that I will not break his legs. How can I let the master do these heavy tasks by himself?" The old butler was really angry. Belsina was brought up by the old butler himself. He had been living a life of luxury since he was a child and had never worked. Even dressing is done by others. Apart from studying, Belsina does not participate in any trivial matters of life. But now it is so good, helping to carry these heavy wine jars with sweat on his forehead. Is it easy for the master to keep fat? What if the Singer family loses weight due to exhaustion? Seeing the old butler's furious look, if he doesn't explain clearly, the old butler will really do it. If he really catches a Luo Brook, he will break his legs without saying anything. The old butler is a man of his words. No one in the family is afraid of the old butler. Now the human mule Brook has been cheated by himself, and he hurried to the red light district to solve his physiological problems. In the final analysis, it was still his own nonsense. Seeing that the old man was really angry, he smiled and said with a smile, while wiping his hands with a towel, "It's okay. I'm free, so I'll just help out. Forget about Brook. That kid is almost a wolf now. If we don't solve the problem, he'll get suffocated." Haha. Seeing that his master still had the energy to joke, the old butler was relieved. After careful questioning, he found out that something had finally happened to the human flesh Rose Brook. It was funny to think of the kid's face flushed, and he couldn't sit or stand steadily because of the suffocation. Seeing his master smiling, he was simply a standard bad guy. How could he do this to his own follower? Only his master could come up with such a bad idea, and the old butler also felt it was incredible. Who would have thought that Chinese medicinal wine would have such a great power? Putting various herbs and things from animals together and soaking them in wine actually has such a great therapeutic effect. It's simply a miracle. To be honest, due to the Himalayas, India has only 2 seasons all year round. One is the dry season and the other is the rainy season. No matter which season it is, it's hot and humid. When people get older, they will feel very uncomfortable in their joints if they are in such a hot and humid environment all year round. This is why the elderly in India have some bone and joint diseases, and why Sichuan people love to eat chili peppers and peppercorns. It is because chili peppers can drive away the moisture and water in the body so that the joints can be protected. Sweating is like taking a sauna, which is so comfortable. Why do Indians love curry? Because there are many spices in curry. People who eat curry for the first time almost swell their tongues into a red cucumber. It is also because of the dehumidification and water vapor. There was a light snow in London 2 days ago, which made the old housekeeper feel like all the joints in his body were covered with a layer of glue. It was sour, numb, painful and swollen, very uncomfortable. I heard that Eagle Claw medicinal wine had the effect of removing moisture and wind, and I was very interested. What is the state of this loyal old housekeeper who has grown up with me? Belsina knows. Seeing the old housekeeper's eyes wandering towards the Eagle Claw medicinal wine, I knew what the old man was thinking, and came to the faucet of Eagle Claw with a smile. Take out a small crystal cup from the faucet. Of course, this crystal cup has also been used by the Chris family. I was afraid that the old housekeeper would think the river was dirty, so I took out my handkerchief and wiped it for a while before turning on the faucet. Gently took a small cup of Ice Claw medicinal wine, put it in the old housekeeper's hand, and asked him to drink it with a smile. The old housekeeper took it in his hand and smelled it. There was a very strange smell, and the smell of wine was very strong. knowing that his master would never hurt himself. This medicinal wine is very good for treating his joint pain. He drank it without hesitation. It was so spicy that his tongue was numb. But you really don't say it. After drinking the medicinal wine, I felt a ball of fire in my throat all the way down to my stomach. After turning around in the stomach for a few times, it began to spread out and move the joints. The effect of feeling warm was really significant, which made the old housekeeper very surprised and said to his master, "Master didn't expect that the effect of this medicinal wine would be so obvious. I felt it as soon as I drank it. I felt that every joint in my body was warm. It is not as sticky as before, and the feeling of soreness seems to have disappeared suddenly." Seeing the old butler's surprised look, Belsina also felt very happy, and then he sighed and said, "China has a history of 5,000 years, and its medical level is dozens of worlds ahead of others. How can outsiders see into it? You may not believe it, but you cannot question the meaning of its existence. You are so old, and you have worked hard for the Singh family all your life, and you have a lot of problems. Every time it rains and blows, you are the first to know, because your joints will feel tingling. It has not been easy over the years, and we finally found these medicinal wines. Although these medicinal wines are very effective, you must not drink too much, because they are medicines after all, and medicines are 3-point toxic. In addition, you must also be careful not to offend the appearance when eating, especially seafood and animal offal, which are not good for your joints. 2 cups a day, 5 grams each time, which is a small sip, is enough to target your joint diseases. I have specially approved that you can drink Eagle Claw medicinal wine all year round, and I guarantee that you will live to be 100 years old in good health. Ha 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 ha." Seeing that his master was so concerned about his health, the old butler was very pleased, and he couldn't help but smile. "My wife is about to give birth, and the second generation of the Singh family is about to be born. Of course I have to live well. I also want to serve the young master until he grows up. Seeing the young master get married and have children to raise the third generation of the Singh family, how can I die? Of course I have to live well. This time, you can't stop me from drinking this medicinal wine. Ha 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 ha. Let's drink the medicine to prolong our life and drink it to live forever. In addition, tell people not to be idle tonight and finish the work early. I will also go to the hospital early to accompany your Lina. After all, the uncertainty of the first birth is really unpredictable. I'm worried if I'm not by her side. The old housekeeper has lived to this age and has seen everything, especially because the medical conditions in India are really unbearable. Even a small birth or appendicitis operation can cause a death. You can imagine how uneasy such a hospital is. In addition, Lina gave birth for the first time at a young age. Just as her own master said, there are many uncertainties, which is really uneasy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 388 Accompanying. Whatever the master ordered, it was alright. I had to tell the master what to do, so that I could accompany the master to Maria Hospital, to take care of my wife. I had to see the second generation of the Singh family born safely with my own eyes, so that I could rest assured. Now it was getting late, and the old butler arranged for Belsina to return to the castle of Baron Adli's family, while arranging for his grandson, Jamal. He was responsible for the transportation of liquid gold in these underground cellars. If he didn't finish the transportation, he would not go back. If there was any mistake, be careful that the old man would break his legs. The next morning, Belsina and the old butler refused and enthusiastically tried to keep Baron Adli and told Baron Adli and his wife the ward number where Lina lived and the date of birth. Baron Adli and his wife also promised Belsina that when the child was born, Baron Adli would take his wife to visit Mrs. Lina in person, who had worked hard to raise a generation for the Singh family. Then he hurriedly got in the car and returned to London with the old butler, because the hospital was not a good place. In addition, they were afraid that the fat girl would be frightened at a young age, which would be a loss. So the little girl was left alone in the presidential suite of the hotel, and was very bored. Seeing that brother Bell finally came home, the little girl was happier than anyone else. But Belsinger was in no mood to accompany the little girl to play now. His wife and his child were lying in the hospital. How could he have the leisure time? In the end, he had no choice but to entrust the little girl to Brooke, a human mule who had returned to London and was in high spirits, to take care of the little girl. Eat whatever you want and go wherever you want to play. There are many attractions in London for the little girl to visit. Not to mention that in just 10 days, the little girl can't walk through London in a year. Then the family chef who followed the Singh family to London began to borrow the hotel's kitchen and made delicious food for Lina in various ways. All ingredients must be green and pollution free. The more refined the organic ingredients, the better. If you don't have enough food, how can you have the strength to give birth to a child naturally? After arranging everything at home, he hurried to Mary Hospital with the old housekeeper. When he just entered the corridor, he saw Natasha sending Lina's attending physician out of the ward. In the corridor of the ward, Belsinger learned in detail that Lina's condition was pretty good and the mother and child were safe. There is no sign of delivery yet. Although the due date is in the next few days, the due date is the preparation for delivery. No one can determine the exact time of delivery, so they can only wait slowly and make all preparations. The attending physician also knew that Lina and Singer looked like adults, but they were actually young, and it would be a lie if they were not afraid of giving birth for the first time. It would be a lie if they were not nervous. So after a long time of comforting, Belsinger, who was sweating on his forehead, must relax. If Belsinger was nervous, then Lina, who was a mother for the first time, would be affected when she saw her husband was nervous. This is very dangerous, so Belsinger quickly adjusted his condition in the corridor. After seeing that there was nothing unusual, he followed Natasha to the ward with a smile. Unexpectedly, Lina did not lie down on the bed to rest at this time, but sat on the sofa, chewing a big apple, while watching the wonderful performance of Mr. Bean on TV. She smiled while watching, and saw that she and the old housekeeper came in, and then she waved to her with a smile, and sat next to Lina. She took the remaining half of the apple, and ate it while smiling, and said to Lina, "How is it? Is it okay these 2 days? Has the little guy still been naughty and kicked your stomach?" Lina wiped her mouth with a napkin, stroked her stomach very gently, and said to Belsinger, "The little guy has been very active these 2 days. After all, the day of delivery is coming soon, and the little guy is turning over." Then he looked at the tired Belsinger and said very distressedly, "How is it? All the problems of the Chris family have been solved. I heard that you are pulling wine to our family castle these 2 days. How can we store so much wine if we pull one truck after another? In fact, you can drink so much wine. How long do you have to drink it?" Belsinger patted Lina's little hand and introduced her to the secret he found in the wine cellar of the Chris family castle. He introduced everything to his wife in detail, and then he sighed and said, "The only remaining trouble is that the Chris family is unwilling to sign the equity transfer agreement. But it doesn't matter. After the education of the Marquis of Sheffield, they will soon give in. Then our family will have double happiness. First, you have a safe birth. Our family has the next generation of heirs. My eldest son Tagore is about to be born. This is a great joy. The second point is that the stock is worth more than $250 million US. After signing the transfer agreement, we will go to the United States and put these stocks in our pockets. Then we will wait for the appreciation." Lina never cared about business matters. Belsinger's health was what she cared about most. Belsinger lost several pounds in the past few days. As his wife, she knew best how tired Belsinger was. Looking at Belsinger, who was yawning, she said to him gently, "There are still more than 2 hours before lunch. I'll accompany you to the bedroom to rest. Look at your eyes, they are all dented. You must not have eaten well these 2 days. Yesterday, I was really helpless because of the little girl's pestering. I signed many unequal treaties and finally let her go. I finally fell asleep, but I didn't expect that it would be dawn 2 hours later. Then I continued to tell the people in the family to do their duties. Isn't it tiring?" Seeing Lina's thoughtfulness, he smiled and got up, then helped Lina get up from the sofa. The couple walked to the bedroom hand in hand, while talking and laughing. With Lina by his side, he felt much more at ease. He fell asleep in less than 2 minutes lying on the bed. I don't know how long I slept. Suddenly, I felt someone shaking my arm. I opened my eyes and saw that it was Natasha. "Hubby, lunch has been delivered. If you don't get up to eat, your sister will starve." Although he knew that Natasha was joking, when he thought of his wife and children starving, Belsina was so scared that he lost all sleepiness and got up quickly. Then he went to the bathroom to wash his face, and then he came to the restaurant with a smile. The family gathered around the table, eating and chatting, which was very warm. Of course, there was also a small episode, that is, the old housekeeper did not dare to go to the table anyway, but the conditions in the hospital were really incomparable to those at home. There was only one dining table, so 3 people had to eat one. The old man was of the same generation as his grandfather. What was there to pay attention to sitting at the dining table and eating together? This was lively. After dinner, Belsina accompanied Lina to drink a cup of green tea and then dress neatly. Especially Lina paid attention to keeping warm, and then the couple held hands. Natasha followed behind and came to the Garden of Mary Hospital, walking on the tree-lined path. This was a must for exercise after dinner. After all, being too fat was very dangerous for pregnant women during childbirth. In this way, Belsina stayed in the hospital because she was afraid of turning over or knocking down Lina's round belly with her hands and feet. Lina lived in the master bedroom by herself. Belsina was accompanied by Natasha in the guest room, and the old housekeeper walked back and forth to contact all the logistics departments. The whole family is working hard like a wound-up clock, everyone doing their job and being busy but not chaotic. Chapter 389, Excessive Tension. Because Lina chose to give birth naturally, she wanted to give birth to the child, which was the best way for the child. Although it was a little dangerous, Lina, a new mother, could sacrifice everything for her child, not to mention a little pain in childbirth. Since she chose natural childbirth, Lina must adjust her physical condition and eat more to get enough nutrition. Various meats, dairy products, vegetables, fruits, and seafood are all important. You can't be careless at all. How much to eat, how to eat, and what kind of food to eat are all strictly implemented by the catering table formulated by the doctor. In addition to eating, Lina must ensure sufficient exercise every day. She eats 5 or 6 meals a day, and there are many pastries to supplement. If you don't exercise, you will grow fat. The distribution of fat in men and women is different. It is an indisputable fact that women who are too fat will affect fertility, especially natural childbirth, which is the most affected. You must ensure adequate nutrition intake and not make your body fat, so you rest for 20 minutes after eating every day. Lina will enter the state of exercise. Because her belly is too big, it is impossible to do strenuous exercise, but she can still do it by taking a walk. Belsina is famous for being lazy. He will never stand if he can sit, and will never sit if he can lie down, but for the sake of his wife and children. Physical health, he gritted his teeth and insisted on accompanying Lina for a walk 3 times a day. This is what moved Lina the most. For the health of himself and his children, Belsina can overcome any shortcomings in his character. Of course, there is one thing that Belsina cannot overcome, that is, smoking and drinking. As the due date approaches, Belsina is getting more and more nervous, although he appears to be very relaxed in front of Lina, talking and laughing carefree. But when Lina can't see, he is so nervous that his head sweats, and he can only use alcohol to numb himself and relax his nerves. He must drink half a catty of white wine for a meal, and his cigarettes have been rising during this period, almost catching up with the chimney. Fortunately, the suite that the Singh family rented at a high price is large enough, and there is an exhaust hood in the bathroom. No matter how much blood you draw, you can exhaust it with the exhaust hood, and it will not affect the health of those living in the suite. In the past, Belsina smoked Camel cigarettes, but now he smokes top-grade Cuban cigars. Why did he change his cigarettes? That's because he was infected by the financial war that he played with those British aristocrats for half a month. What is an aristocrat? What is a rich person? Smoking cigars and drinking red wine are the standard, not smoking Camel cigarettes that American soldiers love the most. This morning, Lina, who had just finished breakfast and was walking in the garden, suddenly felt a sharp pain in her stomach. She almost fell to the ground with a cry of ouch, which scared Belsina so much that he quickly pressed the pager in his hand. In less than 30 seconds, he saw 4 or 5 young and strong male and female nurses running from the direction of the hospital, pushing a mobile bed. Everyone lifted Lina to the bed with their hands and feet, and then rushed to the hospital and pushed her into the emergency room of the obstetrics and gynecology department. Lina's attending physician also personally led the medical team to the emergency room. After a series of examinations, it was confirmed that Lina was now in her first uterine contraction and was still far from giving birth. It was just painful for more than a minute, and then there was no reaction. Lina walked down the bed by herself and returned to her bedroom. This made Belsina laugh and cry. He almost lost his soul just now, but Lina was much better than him. When he saw that everything was fine, he walked back to the ward by himself. His steps were a little staggering, but Lina walked very firmly. This is the strong psychological state of a mother. In order to protect her children, a weak mother who weighs less than 100 pounds can lift a car. Mother is the child's harbor, everything for the child, and the last barrier to protect the child. How can she not have a strong psychological quality? So mother is the most admirable lifelong title in the world, which is why there is a song called Only Mom is Good in the World. Why doesn't anyone sing Only Dad is Good in the World? Because the 2 words mother are so great, and her greatness cannot be described in words. Of course, it was a false alarm, but after Lina returned to the room, the attending physician took Belsina to his office. Although she had only had the first contraction, she was not far from giving birth, so she couldn't leave someone by her side. Even the attending physician had to be on duty at the hospital 24 hours a day to respond to emergencies at any time. How could anyone leave Lina? Therefore, Belsina, as a husband and a father, must be responsible and take up the responsibility of the head of the family to take care of Lina and the child without any problems. This is the duty of man. So when he returned to the ward, he discussed with Natasha and decided to be on duty for 12 hours at night, and Natasha would take over during the day. Lina couldn't be alone 24 hours a day. Lina also knew that she was about to give birth and knew that the child's status in the family was the eldest son of the couple. It was also the first boy of the second generation, and there couldn't be any problems. Otherwise he would not be able to explain to the ancestors of the Singh family. There was no way to explain to her parents, let alone her children, although the atmosphere was a little tense and busy. But Lina obeyed her orders, although she felt very distressed when she saw her husband, Belsina, staring at her with his big eyes for 12 hours at night. But there was nothing she could do. Fortunately, Belsina could rest for 12 hours during the day. In the first 3 days of childbirth, the diet structure must be adjusted, and some foods that are easy to digest but very high in energy and calories must be eaten. On the second day, there were 3 more labor pains, and the time intervals were getting shorter and shorter. This is a sign before childbirth. Sometimes there will be a labor pain while sleeping, which will pull Lina out of her sleep with sweat. Belsina will hold Lina and spend this difficult time with her. With her husband holding her in his arms, Lina feels very relieved. Because Belsina is his heaven, because Belsina is everything to him, and with Belsina around, he is not afraid of anything. What's more, a little pain, the pain now is happiness. This is a right given to women by God. Men want to enjoy such pain, but they can't. Isn't that nonsense? Which man can give birth to a child? As the intervals between contractions became shorter and shorter, and the pain became more and more intense, Belsina neither slept nor rested. He chatted with Lina all the time, joking to divert her attention. All the liquids and food Lina used were fed to her by Belsina himself. Although Indians believe that giving birth is a dirty thing for women, Belsina doesn't care. His wife and children are the most important in the world. The gods of all walks of life in India, especially Lord Shiva, are very good to me. Not only do I have to take care of Lina, but I have to accompany her personally during the birth. I even have to hold the scissors and cut the umbilical cord of my child. I have to accompany Lina to complete the entire process of giving birth and fulfill my responsibilities as a father. Chapter 390. I have a son, Part 1. Although Belsina pretended to be calm and used humorous words and actions to divert Lina's attention, could physical pain be relieved by diverting attention? Although Lina was a strong mother who chose natural childbirth for the sake of her child, she was a 15-year-old girl after all. Even if she was mature at the critical moment, she was still afraid to see her husband's idiotic behavior to make her happy. After laughing, Lina's eyes turned red, and she burst into tears. This scared Belsina, and he didn't know what happened. He wanted to run out to find a doctor, but he didn't expect that his hand was held by Lina when he turned around. He looked at Belsina with tears and sobbed, "Brother Bell, it hurts. It really hurts. I think I can't bear it anymore." Lina only showed her weak side in front of him, seeking comfort from her husband. Let him say some nice words to encourage her confidence. The pain of childbirth is inevitable, and he can't replace Lina to suffer. In addition, he was so anxious that his forehead was sweating. With trembling hands, he held Lina's head in his arms and said softly to comfort her, "It's okay, just bear it, and it will pass. Every woman is like this when giving birth. If you can't help the pain, just scream. If there is any way to relieve your pain, I will not hesitate to kill me. It's okay, just bear it, and it will pass. Why can't you endure this kind of heart-piercing pain? It's easy to say, just bear it, and it will pass. It's painful, like cutting flesh with a knife. Why don't I like to hear this?" Lina is a little unreasonable now. It would be great if Belsina could replace her, but which man can give birth to a child? The pain is unbearable, and she is irritable. It's a common problem for women to find fault everywhere. When she heard something she didn't like, she immediately turned hostile. While struggling, she slapped Belsina behind her with both hands and cried, "It's all your fault. It's all your fault. Why don't you just die? Just bear it. Why don't you? Bear it for me and show me." Knowing that Lina was looking for faults in him and making trouble, Belsina still smiled. Hearing what Lina said, he decisively rolled up his right sleeve, revealing his fat white arm, and put it in Lina's mouth, and said with a smile, "I will bear it. I will bear it. You have to bear it too. If it hurts, bite it. Bite it hard. I will feel the pain with you. We will get through the difficulties together. You are not afraid with Brother Bell by your side." Lina was moved to tears, but the pain was unbearable, and she wanted to find a place to vent the anger in her heart. Seeing the fat white arm stretched out in front of her, although she was reluctant, she still opened her mouth and bit it without hesitation. Belsina weighed nearly 200 pounds, fat like a Maitreya Buddha, and his white arm was like a pig's elbow. After being bitten by Lina, her eyes widened in pain. But only by doing this can Lina relieve some of the pain and the fear in her heart. She had to endure the pain, which hurt Lina even more. As she bit, Lina felt something was wrong. Why did she have a hot and salty taste in her mouth? When she looked at it, she saw that Belsina's fat arm was bleeding from being bitten. 2 neat rows of blood and fresh blood flowed out instantly. This scared Lina so much that she forgot the pain and stared at Belsina's bleeding teeth marks. You know what? This trick really works. The pain in her arm suddenly eased. Then she looked down and saw Lina's frightened face. Belsina said with a smile in her ear, "I'm fat and have a lot of blood, honey. Bite as much as you can. It doesn't matter as long as it doesn't hurt. Just treat my hand as a roasted lamb leg and chew it hard." Lina, who was still comforting herself even in this situation, suddenly felt that she was incompetent as a mother and wife. Which woman doesn't feel pain when giving birth? Didn't she go through the gates of hell? Why am I so squeamish? What is Belsing's identity? He is the master of the family. In Sinja town, he can be said to be a master who can cover the sky with one hand and kill people without a trace. For herself, for the children, and to relieve her pain and fear, she gave up her hand. Which man can be so good to herself? In India, men are the sky, and they are synonymous with male chauvinism. Women are slaves in the family. When did they work hard to become the master of the master and become a punching bag? She was moved, so moved that she cried while holding Belsing's arm. No matter how Bell persuaded her or how he used humorous language to amuse Lina and divert her attention. But there was no way. Lina hugged one of her arms and cried bitterly. Her tears fell on her wounds, stimulating the burning pain, but she had to endure it. After several minutes, Lina finally cried until she was tired. In addition, she had not slept well for 2 days because of the labor pains before giving birth. She was so sleepy that she closed her eyes while sobbing. After a while, she fell asleep in Belsina's arms. It was a good thing to be able to sleep so that she could save enough energy to cope with the next birth. This was Lina's first child. Although her body had grown into an adult, it was an indisputable fact that she was young. Moreover, she chose natural childbirth. It was hard to say when she would give birth. How could she not have some energy to cope with the next critical moment? Although she was very tired and her arm was very painful, she still held Lina motionlessly, allowing her to recover her strength and spirit. Hearing that there was no movement in the room, Natasha carefully opened the door and looked at Belsina's hand, which was bitten open with 2 cuts and blood flowing out. But when she saw Belsing smiling and nodding at her, Natasha knew to retreat carefully. As soon as she closed the door, she couldn't hold back her tears. Butler Jamil was already anxious and was waiting for Mrs. Natasha to find out the news in our city. Unexpectedly, Natasha went in and opened the door and then retreated and cried with her hands covering her mouth. What was going on? The old butler was anxious and ran around like a headless fly. Although women like Natasha have no status in traditional Indian families, it is not the case in the Singh family. Every lady is almost equal in front of Master Singh, but Mrs. Lina is the most important. Although he is a butler with a high status in the family, he still gives due respect to Mrs. Natasha. But the little girl went in and cried, and he couldn't get any answers, no matter what he asked. Isn't this worrying the old man to death? After a long time, Natasha calmed down, and the old man asked anxiously with sweat all over his head. Madam Natasha, what happened in the bedroom just now with all the noise and shouting? Natasha's eyes were red with tears. She just calmed down and cried again when the old housekeeper asked her. While crying, Belsina put his arm in Lina's mouth to let her bite it in order to relieve Lina's pain. He bit her until she bled, but he still held the sleeping Lina motionlessly. When had his master ever been persecuted and wronged like this? How could he not feel distressed? Chapter 391. I have a son. The old housekeeper heard that Madam Natasha told him what happened in the bedroom in a disjointed manner. To be honest, in his heart, the old housekeeper admired his master very much. Although he was young, he was a man with a man's responsibility. At the same time, he felt very heartbroken. His master was raised by himself since he was a child. He was fat and handsome. He had never been bumped or touched since he was a child, let alone left a scar. Now Madam Lina gave birth and cut her arm. 2 rows of teeth marks were scooped out, which would definitely leave scars. But this is the couple's own internal problem. Can you, as a housekeeper, control it? The old housekeeper admired and felt distressed. In addition, Madam Lina had been tossing for 2 days, but there was no sign of giving birth. Although such a degree of tossing for women to give birth is considered normal within the controllable range, some people toss for 3 or 4 days. As long as the amniotic fluid is not broken, the child will definitely not be in any danger. But if this goes on, the whole family will collapse. Who can bear not sleeping for 2 days and 2 nights? Who can bear not sleeping for 3 days and 3 nights? But the process of a woman choosing natural childbirth cannot be intervened by humans. If the child does not want to come out, no one can do anything. She does not want a cesarean section. Just open her stomach and take the child out. Choosing a cesarean section is much easier. As for making so many right and wrongs, but although the old housekeeper was very distressed and helpless, but he also supported Lina's choice of natural childbirth. Because the old housekeeper consulted an obstetrician and gynecologist about the difference between a child born naturally and a child born by cesarean section. For the sake of their next generation, all elites choose natural childbirth, which is an indispensable procedure. It is really a threat to the life safety of mother and child that they have to choose a cesarean section. If they can choose, of course, they will give birth naturally. At this time, the door was knocked and opened. It turned out to be their grandson, Jamal, who walked in with a smile carrying an incubator as big as a suitcase. Little Jamal has recently become a runner, keeping in touch with the Alderi family and the Sheffield family. while delivering meals from the hotel to the hospital. Although Mary Hospital is the leading private hospital in London and the food produced is rare, it is not as good as homemade. I was very happy to complete the task assigned by the master and came to the hospital excitedly with lunch. But as soon as I entered the door, my grandfather had a donkey face and Mrs. Natasha sat on the sofa with her eyes crying like peaches. What's going on? Did Mrs. Lina have an unexpected situation? After asking the old man, I learned what happened. Little Jamal also admired his master very much, but it was a pity for that fat white elbow. Seeing his grandson asking questions endlessly, the old butler was really annoyed and scolded loudly. If you have nothing to do, put down your lunch and get out of here. Can you take care of Mrs. Purgy with Brooke? I feel relieved if you keep an eye on him. Get out of here. Little Jamal was used to being scolded by his grandfather, and he would fight from time to time. Little Jamal had no way to resist the old man. He could only pat the Dunhill purse on his waist with a smile and said to the old man, "Grandpa, you can't drive me away. What I have in my purse is the equity change agreement." Those people from the Chris family were finally taken down and signed by the Marquis of Sheffield. This is what the master specifically asked for, and it is related to the future asset restructuring of our family. If you drive me away and let the master know, he will definitely blame you. The old housekeeper has been upset enough these 2 days. When he heard the words equity change agreement, his spirits immediately lifted. He smiled and quickly asked little Jamal to take out the agreement and take a look at it himself. On it was the equity change agreement signed and confirmed by the Chris family's equity holders, Lord Crispo and his son. It was written in great detail, including how much the Belsina family spent to buy the stocks of these big companies. There was important information such as voluntary transfer, but in fact the Belsina family didn't pay a penny at all. It was all robbed. But Coca-Cola didn't know that with this equity transfer agreement, they could get the Coca-Cola headquarters company, then change the equity to the name of the Singer family, and then wait for the time to get rich. After so much effort, the Marquis of Sheffield finally got the other party's signature, and the signature was crooked. It was obvious that he was seriously injured at the time. When he thought of the tricks his master had used for the Marquis of Sheffield, the old butler felt his spine numb and shuddered. He put these important documents in his hand into his briefcase, and just as he buttoned the bag, he heard Mrs. Lina's scream of pain from the bedroom. Then he saw the door open from the inside with a snap, and the panicked Belsina ran out of the bedroom and saw little Jamal yelling excitedly, "Go find Dr. Paul and tell the medical team to prepare. Lina's water has broken. She's going to give birth soon." The word amniotic fluid was like a rally call for a charge. The whole family was waiting for these 2 words with red eyes. Finally hearing the good news, the whole family took action quickly. Paul, Lina's attending doctor, came to the ward in person, checked Lina's condition, and confirmed that she had entered the countdown to giving birth. Then he systematically directed the medical team to quickly push Lina into the delivery room for delivery. Now is the critical moment and the most dangerous time. Lina, who was carried to the bed by several people, grabbed Belsina's hand and refused to let go. While screaming in pain, she said to Belsina, "Brother Bell, I won't go anywhere without you. Help me, help me." Although Belsina was so anxious that white sweat broke out on his forehead, and he was also afraid, he pretended to be calm and smiled while patting Lina's hand. "Don't be afraid, aren't you usually very brave? Besides, I'm with you, so what are you afraid of? But I have to change my clothes and disinfect my whole body before I can enter the delivery room, so wait for me for 5 minutes. I'll be in front of you in less than a minute." Now the authoritative research organizations in the world have proved through years of research that the proportion of mothers who give birth successfully is increasing with the company of their husbands. The children are also getting healthier and smarter, so the fathers of the children are encouraged to accompany the mothers throughout the delivery process to increase the confidence of the mothers and children. This incentive has been implemented for several years, and Belsina doesn't care how harsh India is about giving birth. But the world is so big, and his wife and children are the most important. How can he care so much? Besides, this is the UK, not India. Who dares to control him? After hearing Bell's explanation of his character, Lina also felt that she was making a fuss. Then she let go of Belsina and let the doctor and nurse push her into the delivery room, and Belsina went to the disinfection room under the guidance of the nurse to take a shower, disinfect and change clothes. Chapter 392. I have a son. This set of disinfection process is quite cumbersome. If it were normal, it would take at least 10 minutes to come down. But now Belsina is so anxious. His wife is giving birth to a son over there, and he is disinfecting, bathing, and dressing here. It can be described as the speed of a rocket. After finally completing this set of procedures, he rushed into the delivery room wearing a mask and a hat. At this time, Lina had been placed on the delivery bed. All kinds of medical instruments were turned on to monitor heart rate and blood pressure. Seeing the busy crowd, Lina was already screaming in pain and tossing back and forth on the bed. At this time, Belsina pushed away the crowd in front of him, came to the bedside, hugged Lina, and said softly to comfort her, "My husband is here. My husband is here. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I'm here." Seeing the reaction of the young couple, the whole knowledgeable medical team couldn't help but smile knowingly. To be honest, which newborn parents have this reaction when they give birth to a child on the same day? It's like the sky is falling, and they are so scared that they don't know which leg to step on. Belsina and Lina's reactions were relatively mild. Sometimes they even shouted and screamed that they were going to kill someone. Some young mothers couldn't stand the pain. Some even shouted that they didn't want to have a baby anymore. Can you just not have a baby? What kind of scene is this? These experienced doctors have never encountered it, so they didn't care about it. They even turned on the stereo in the delivery room to relax and played soft music. Belsina, who was holding Lina who was tossing around in pain on the bed, couldn't hear anything in his ears. He could only hold his wife tightly and comfort her softly. He didn't even know what kind of comforting words he was saying. 10 minutes later, he suddenly felt a pat on his shoulder. Belsina turned around and saw the attending Dr. Paul saying to Belsina with a smile, "Mr. Singh, don't be so nervous. Relax. Mrs. Lina is very healthy. The fetus is in a good position and the bone joints have opened. Now we have officially entered the production stage, so let go of the lady. We need to set up various auxiliary equipment." When Belsina heard that the gap between Lina's bones had opened and the fetus was in a good position, he knew that the countdown to the birth of the child had officially begun. While holding Lina's hand, he made way for Dr. Paul to set up some auxiliary equipment, especially to set up Lina's legs high, which was conducive to production. The rule of India has been deeply rooted in the Indian people for thousands of years, and the separation of men and women is even more serious than that of ancient China. Originally, Lina had a prejudice against Paul, a male obstetrician and gynecologist, and didn't like him very much. But after Belsina's careful persuasion, she finally recognized Dr. Paul. To be honest, since the male dominance of mankind has continued to this day, all jobs are best done by men, including the medical profession. Doctors only have patients in their eyes, and there is no distinction between men and women. What is there to be shy about? So Lina cooperated so well. Although Dr. Paul said that everything went smoothly during the birth process, and that everything was carried out according to the most standard schedule, and that both mother and child were very cooperative, pain was still inevitable. In addition, Lina felt very scared and kept grabbing her husband's hand and shouting loudly. Her body was sweating, as if she had just been fished out of the water, and Belsina was also sweating nervously. Seeing that Lina was crying in pain, he took out his bitten elbow and stuffed it into Lina's mouth, letting her bite it. The more it hurt, the more Lina's pain would be relieved. It didn't matter if she was in pain, as long as her wife and children were safe. Now Lina was almost going crazy with pain, and she didn't care whether this arm was her husband's. She bit it, one bite on the left, and one bite on the right. She could only hear the sound of teeth biting flesh, and Belsina's body trembled with every bite. She was shaking with pain, but Belsina kept gritting her teeth, and insisted not to make any sound, to interfere with the entire birth process. It could be that God saw that Belsina's elbow was about to be eaten by Lina, or it could be that Shiva saw that the couple was too pitiful. The whole delivery process was unusually smooth. Half an hour later, the baby's head had come out. Then the couple followed Paul's life rhythm and pushed together. A few minutes later, a loud cry was heard throughout the delivery room. All the medical team members cheered loudly. After an hour and a half of hard work, Lina successfully gave birth to Bel Singh's eldest son Tagore Singh by natural delivery. The child weighed 3.5 kilograms, which was the level of a big fat boy. After such a long time of tossing and the pain of childbirth, when the child cried for the first time after birth, Lina was so happy that she fell asleep, and the next task was for the father to appear. Holding the surgical scissors, carefully cut the umbilical cord that transported nutrients to her son. Then the doctor will keep the umbilical cord blood. If the child encounters any critical illness in the future, the umbilical cord blood may be used to save his life. After the examination, the child's physiological indicators were excellent, and there was not even a mole on his chubby body. The little guy cried loudly, and his voice was so loud that it hurt people's eardrums. Don't you think it's strange? After the little guy took a bath and wrapped in a blanket, he was handed over to Belsina nearby, and the little guy fell asleep humming. The little guy was handled neatly, and Lina had also cleaned up neatly, and the mother and son were pushed out of the delivery room. At this time, Lina looked at her son in her arms and cried and laughed, feeling that everything was worth it. For such a little thing, she would not hesitate to cut off 10 pounds of meat. When the mother and child were safely pushed out of the delivery room, the old housekeeper who had been waiting impatiently saw his chubby little master. Between his eyebrows, he looked like a replica of his own master. At a glance, you can tell that the happiness of the father and son is not to mention. The 60-year-old man actually cried and knelt down in the direction of India to make fun of him, crying and kowtowing. Master, madam, I have not failed you two's trust. Master Bel has grown up, married and had children. Now the second generation of the Singer family has been born and is still very healthy. Good madam, and the old man can rest in peace. The Singer family has been passed on. Well, my mission is completed. The moment he saw his little nephew, Blue was surprised and happier than when he gave birth to his son. He quickly took out his mobile phone and called his father. He reported his safety to his parents and described his little nephew's voice, appearance, and smile in detail. The whole family fell into a sea of joy. This young master had an heir. All the efforts and assets of his master were inherited. The family was passed on, which was the most important thing. They, the servants, had a deep-rooted connection and would not become those rootless duckweeds and be bullied at will. This is the meaning of the family having an heir. There is nothing better than a newborn baby to calm people's hearts. When Lina and the child were arranged to rest in the master bedroom, Bel Singer, who was ignored by everyone, suddenly fell to the ground. The old butler who was supporting Bel Singer saw that his master's arm was swollen like an elephant's leg. He opened it and saw 12 teeth marks of different sizes, all of which were bleeding. 12 pieces of flesh had been bitten off. Chapter 393, Joyful Busyness. Seeing the wounds of all sizes on the master's arm, everyone gasped and looked towards the bedroom with strange eyes. At this time, Belsina looked at everyone tiredly and said seriously, I warn you, no one should say anything. Now the wife and the children are the most important. I asked Lina to bite my arm, wound myself. Everyone knew how deep the relationship between the master and Mrs. Lina was. Who dared to say anything? They quickly helped the master up from the carpet and rushed him to the emergency room. After thorough disinfection and cleaning by the emergency doctor, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The bite seemed to be quite fierce, but in fact it only broke the skin. There will be scars in the future, but the flesh will not fall off. After a simple disinfection and bandaging, Belsina returned to the room. At this time, little Jamal hurriedly opened the incubator placed on the side and took out the delicious food one by one. Belsina selected a few relatively light and nutritious foods, as well as a very fragrancy-based soup, and walked into the bedroom. He fed Lina with a spoonful of food, and Lina kept her eyes on the crib while eating, and said to Belsina with a smile, Brother Bell, look how soundly Tagore is sleeping. I'm willing to endure any hardship for this little guy. Only those who have experienced it personally can understand the joy of being a father or mother for the first time. Belsina seemed to have grown up in an instant when he saw his son was born. He knew how to forgive others when he could, and how to give in. It can be said that all the sharp edges on his body were smoothed by this little guy. He became smooth and peaceful and smiled while feeding Lina. Don't you see whose son that is? Of course he is handsome, but I'm wondering now, why is this kid wrinkled? He is not as handsome as when he was just born. Lina drank a mouthful of soup and said with a roll of her eyes, I soaked you in water for 10 months, and you are like this. Aren't all babies born wrinkled? After the layer of skin on the body is peeled off, it returns to its original appearance. Belsina wiped Lina's mouth and said with a smile, it's strange. We are both new parents. Why do you know so much? Lina rolled her eyes and said with a smile, read more books and you will understand everything. Which child is not like this when it is born? Red and wrinkled, just like a little monkey. Our son is good, but you are still not satisfied. Look at what you said. How dare I not be satisfied? You two are my whole world now, and I have to be the punching bag. Just bear the bullying. Who made me the head of the family? Lina, who just gave birth, is eager to protect her calf, just like a lioness. Who dares to mess with her? Maybe she just gave birth and her stomach is empty and hungry, so Lina ate a lot, and after eating and drinking, she lay on the bed to rest. Half an hour later, Dr. Paul brought a medical team to check Lina and the child, and then confirmed that Lina could feed the child with her own milk. That's right, Lina insisted on breastfeeding because Lina had read many textbooks on mothers and babies and knew how much nutritional value mother's milk had for children. Especially colostrum, which contains many antibodies and is an indispensable nutrient intake for children's growth. How can milk powder compare with mother's milk? And don't look at Lina's young age, but she has been well dressed and plump since she was a child, and there is no problem in feeding her baby son. The little guy tasted his first bite of food more than 2 hours after he was born, and he ate it happily. Unlike other children, Master Tagore of the Singh family is particularly sleepy and rarely cries. He sleeps when he is full and excretes when he wakes up. Sometimes he cries a few times. When the father, Bel Singh, puts a new diaper on the little guy would stare around with his big eyes, and then he would start again after a while, panting and falling asleep. Other children would sleep for 20 hours a day, and his own child would sleep for 22 hours a day. Originally, Belsina was mentally prepared to endure the torture of taking care of the mother and child in person. After all, children don't care if you are physically tired. They cry when they are hungry, pee, and cry when they have nothing to do. They cry and make you upset and at a loss. But unexpectedly, this kid in their family is very quiet, which makes Belsina and Lina, who are not parents for the first time, particularly happy inside the care of the gods. After 3 days, Mother Lina and the child were carefully observed. After diagnosis, it was confirmed that everything was healthy and they could choose to be discharged from the hospital after 7 days. But Belsina disagreed. Although India is one of the 4 ancient civilizations, Indians do not have the habit of sitting in confinement. But Belsina is a Chinese soul. He knows that women suffer serious physical losses after giving birth and need to be well nourished and cultivated. How could they be discharged from the hospital and run around after a week? Besides, does the Singh family need these $2? They must stay for a full month. That's why they choose to bring their wives and children back to the hotel. Isn't it just money? Isn't it just the room fee? The Singh family has a lot of people who are well cared for in the hospital. In addition to taking care of his wife and children's diet, the thing that Bel Singh is most concerned about now is the chefs hired at high salaries in the family. The nutritional meal must be nutritious, with a combination of meat and vegetables, soup, and water. Bel Singh personally prepares each dish for parent-child tasting, before serving it to Lina for her to eat. Due to adequate nutrition and a good rest, without the need to take care of the child, Lina's milk is very sufficient. She breastfeeds several times a day, to make the little guy full. The full little guy lies in the crib to sleep. At this time, what Lina and Bel Singh are most willing to do, is to sit on the bed and watch the baby sleeping sweetly not far away. Sometimes the couple also discuss whether to have more children after the young Master Tagore is weaned. Seeing little Tagore, Lina's maternal instinct completely burst out, thinking that giving birth is the happiest thing for a woman. She wants to give birth to many children for Brother Bel. One is not enough. She must give birth to at least 10 or 8 children. She wants to expand the population of the entire Singh family by her own strength, and men and women must give birth. Every time he heard such remarks, Bel Singh felt a dull pain in his arm. Of course, Lina also knew the reason for Bel Singh's strange expression. Lina was very heartbroken when she saw such an expression. She hugged Bel Singh's white and fat elbow with a guilty face. Although a week has passed, the scabs on the arm have fallen off, but the scars with teeth marks are clearly visible. It can also be imagined how hard she bit it at the beginning. It must be painful to bite off a piece of meat, but Bel Singh never complained about herself. This moved Lina to tears. A week later, the little guy started to inject various seedlings, and then Bel Singh had another task every day. Just take the little one to the swimming pool to swim, exercise the coordination of the body and the growth of the joints. The little one puts a swimming ring on his neck and swims in the inflatable tub. At this time, the little one is the happiest. Ha ha ha, he laughs non-stop, always showing a toothless smile, looking at his father Bel Singh. Chapter 394, Singamana to be renovated. Although Bel Singh spent a huge amount of money, he was able to ensure that his wife and children spent a peaceful month in the hospital. On the day of the child's full month, he chose to be discharged from the hospital. The whole family returned to the luxury hotel in London and celebrated it well. Even Bel Singh drank too much. The next morning, just after getting up from the bed, he learned that Lina had taken her two sisters out and went to London Commercial Street to start a shopping trip. I gave Tagore, the eldest son, to Bel Singh, the father. Fortunately, Lina was afraid that her son would be hungry when she left, so she prepared several bottles of milk. This made Singh, the father, put down a big stone in his heart and play with his son in the room. Of course, only Bel Singh played, and Tagore could only watch his father playing tricks on the bed. If you want to play with your father, it will be a year later. Although the father and son stared at each other and chatted in Martian language, the relationship between father and son was particularly good. At lunchtime, Lina returned triumphantly with her two sisters. The four strong male servants barely carried back the items they had bought. There were more than one thing they bought, but 90% of them were baby products used by Master Tagore, including clothes, diapers, bottles, toys, everything, all in sets, and all of them were the world's top brands. But the little guy's clothes were only the size of 2 palms, but each piece cost no less than £300. The money of children and women is the easiest to make. Parents are willing to spend any amount of money for the health of their children. The family finished lunch happily. They thought they would rest for an afternoon and then return to the Singh family manor to live for a few days tomorrow. After sorting out their gains, they didn't expect Lina to actually take a breast pump and prepare a few bottles of milk for Bel's character. With a wave of his hand, he took his two sisters to continue shopping until more than 10 o'clock in the evening and then returned to the hotel tiredly. The next day, they took a day off, and then the whole family took a business car to the original Sheffield Manor. Now the family residence is officially renamed Singamana. Lina is a very competent wife and mother, and she is in charge of almost all the work at home. So of course Lina is responsible for packing the luggage. Bel Singh has a task. The task is to go to the underground wine cellar and see how the gold you brought back is stored. I came to the wine cellar excitedly, but I was dumbfounded. The whole wine cellar was piled up, and even the sidewalk had to walk sideways. When there was a slight movement, it was easy to smash the boxes of top-grade French Bordeaux wine. The whole wine box was stacked on the top of the wine cellar, without any gaps. And the Chinese liquor that I cared about the most was not in the wine cellar. Seeing Bel Singh's surprised look, the old butler had to smile bitterly and said to Master Singh, "Master, you were busy accompanying your wife in the hospital a while ago, and I didn't bother you. This time I have to say that our wine cellar is too small to accommodate so many Chinese liquors. Now these Chinese liquors are stored in the warehouse. You have to think of a way." I think of a way. I'm not a god. The only way I can think of is to expand the wine cellar. But expanding the wine cellar is not a simple task to complete. For example, digging a wine cellar is much more difficult. In addition, the Sheffield family wine cellar is buried underground. If you want to expand it, you have to open it up, and the amount of work is huge. Although the south of the UK is not cold, it is winter now. Although the temperature remains above zero, it is still quite cold in the morning and evening. The most taboo thing for wine and Chinese liquor is cold and hot stimulation. Even if you are a god-level winemaker, it is impossible to guarantee that every bottle of wine brewed is wine instead of grape vinegar. Wine and vinegar are only a thin line apart. They are twin brothers. Now, Belsinger especially missed Simba, the pet dog in India's home, because the little guy had a very sensitive nose and could smell whether the bottle of wine was wine or vinegar through the cork. With the little guy's magic weapon in hand, it was easy to clean the entire wine cellar, but now they can only be piled together. He is the master of the family and has to make decisions on everything himself. The old butler can only execute, but he can't make decisions for him. Belsinger stretched out his hands helplessly to the old butler and said, "The only way to solve it is to dig and build another wine cellar. The wine cellar built this time must be large, and it must be kept at a constant temperature and humidity, otherwise our family's liquid gold will definitely be damaged, and the loss will be huge." The old butler's character is so stingy that when it comes to money, he will spend every penny. When he mentions money, the old butler's brows will frown. This is already an open secret of the entire Singh family. Don't look at the Singh family receiving nearly £100 million in cash when they overthrew the Chris family. But if you want to build a large wine cellar, the amount of cash used will never exceed half, and the project is so huge that it cannot be completed without 2 months. The stingy character of the old butler, can he tolerate such spending? But if he can't tolerate the red wine, the white wine will become sour and spoiled. The loss will be greater, but the old butler has his own way. When he saw the old butler, he smiled and rubbed his hands, while saying to Belsinger, "Master, I agree with the construction of a new wine cellar to accommodate the spoils of the family, but I have different opinions on building a wine cellar." Here it comes. I knew I would suffer when the old butler mentioned his different opinions, but I didn't expect that the old butler would be so powerful this time. Belsinger almost jumped up with joy after giving him a series of suggestions. Why was he so happy? It was because the old butler had carefully checked it when he took over the Marquis of Sheffield's manor. I was afraid that there was something fishy in it, but I didn't expect that the old butler's careful sight actually got the due reward. On the left side of the peaks on both sides of Sheffield Manor, a natural cast cave was discovered. Although the area of the cast cave is not large, only more than 20 square centimeters, this cast cave is located inside the mountain. Moreover, the entire mountain is composed of hard granite, with humus on top, and then trees and weeds grow. The old housekeeper has personally explored this cave. The quality of the stone is very good. With careful construction, it is entirely possible to dig out a large hole in the mountain, and then use it as a wine cellar to store wine. There are particularities in storing wine in caves, because the mountain is thick enough to ensure constant humidity and temperature all year round. It is the best place to store wine and liquor. How can Belsinger not be happy to hear this good news? He quickly took the old housekeeper to sit in the electric car. He rushed all the way to the mountain, and after the old housekeeper's guidance, he found the cave hidden behind the weeds. The entrance to the cave was completely blocked by bushes, and it was wet and humid inside, but with a flashlight, it can be seen that the area is about 20 cubic meters. There is no crack in the rock on the top of the cave, and I don't know how nature created such a cave. The quality of the stone is top notch and the hardest. If the mountain is carefully hollowed out, it can form a large wine cellar. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 395, Singh Manor needs to be renovated. This is a gift from God. I didn't expect that such a solid cave would be formed in a mountain with a deep enough soil layer. I can save myself the trouble of repairing and expanding the old wine cellar. It is a very tedious job to carry it back and forth, and the car is still carrying fragile products. Losing a bottle of wine is worth hundreds of dollars. Even if the Singh family is rich, they can't lose it like this, right? If the old housekeeper sees it, he will be so distressed that he will bleed. Belsina is very satisfied with this cave. Anyway, there is still time to invite a construction team to work in the cave and hollow out the mountain to form a 2-story wine cellar with 1 floor above the ground and 1 floor underground. It can keep constant humidity and temperature to preserve the hard-earned liquid gold. If you want to dig a big wine cellar, solve the problem at one time, and save a lot of trouble in the future. In addition, he has money in his hand and is not panic. So Belsina decided on the spot to find a reliable construction team to renovate the wine cellar, and this time he will do it hard. Not only do we need to dig a new wine cellar, but we also need to renovate the old castle of the Sheffield family. It is a thorough renovation. All traces of the Sheffield family should be wiped out, and it should be renovated into a castle with European royal characteristics. It is the residence of our family, and of course it should conform to our own aesthetic point of view. It is the same if you drive 1 sheep or release 2 sheep. Anyway, they are all for us to make a big deal. Except for the old butler. Belsina's decision was recognized by all the family members. The old butler disagreed because he was afraid of spending money. This was something that the old butler's character could not change. Of course, he did not have any roots in the UK, and the only friends he knew were Baronadry and many allies. It is not easy to find a reliable construction team in the UK with good quality and fair price. In addition, it is natural for a foreigner to cheat himself. Can it work without a reliable person? So Belsina took out his phone and called Baronadry. Baronadry had promised to visit Belsina's child when he was discharged from the hospital, but he did not expect Singh to stay in the hospital for a month. He will bring his wife to visit his nephew in person. Adri was very happy to receive the call from Belsina. He promised to arrive at the Singer Manor tomorrow and let Belsina arrange a place to stay, especially the wine. That must not be sloppy. The Singer family does not have much else but a lot of wine. Even if you are a big drinker, you can't finish drinking it in your lifetime when you come to the Singer family. After chatting for a while, Belsina introduced himself to Baronadry and wanted to hire a construction team to decorate the castle and then dig a wine cellar in the mountain. The British aristocracy has been formed for thousands of years and has formed a complete industrial chain serving the aristocracy. The construction company that specializes in repairing castles and building new buildings for the aristocracy has excellent quality, fair prices, and superb craftsmanship. Belsina found Baronadry to find a decoration company, and he found the right person. 2 years ago, the Adri family castle was renovated using the decoration company he knew that specialized in serving the aristocracy. After telling Belsina the phone number of the decoration company, Baronadry personally called the owner of the decoration company. After hanging up the phone, tell the other party that, although Belsina is an Alvorish, he is an ally and brother of many nobles. Don't take the Singer family lightly. Baronadry specially called to warn me and introduced me to a powerful potential customer. The boss was so happy that he couldn't wait to object. In addition, Baronadry has become a celebrity in the British upper class recently. Who doesn't know that the Chris family, who has deep roots, has been uprooted? Baronadry has 2 brushes in his hands. Their decoration company serves these nobles. Renovating the castles of noble families and building new buildings is their livelihood. Don't you know the character of nobles? How dare you fool Baronadry's friends? On the spot, he said that he must successfully complete the project of Baronadry's friends and guarantee the quality and fair price. As soon as I hung up the phone, Belsina called. After a brief discussion, the boss of the decoration company will bring an elite team. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon of the 3rd day, I will personally visit the Singer family castle. The elite team will conduct on-site inspections and make records, and then come up with a decoration plan a week later. Let Belsina choose to look at the pictures and use whichever decoration plan is good and suitable for the Singer family. Then he will pay 30% of the decoration fee in advance with the new song, so that the decoration company can purchase raw materials and organize manpower and machinery for large-scale operations. When the project is halfway through, 50% of the decoration fee will be deposited into the decoration company's account again. After the project is completed, the remaining 20% of the balance will be deposited into the company's account after the inspection without any problems. This is a practice formed over hundreds of years. Singer was very happy to accept such terms. After completing the construction task of the wine cellar, Singer was in a particularly good mood. That night, he asked the Chinese chef who was good at Cantonese cuisine. He made a large table of delicacies and then specially selected a jar of 5 gin-packed 100-year-old Daughter Red. After opening it, the fragrance overflowed. All the family members who knew wine couldn't help but sniff their noses. It was so fragrant. The wish that was not completed in the previous life, this life finally tasted the Daughter Red, and it was a Daughter Red of hundreds of years. This made Singer feel particularly comfortable. He drank more when he was in a good mood. The next morning, Singer, who drank too much, did not feel a headache. He was still energetic when he got up. He had to give a thumbs up and sigh that the Chinese wine culture was really profound and delicious, strong and not intoxicating. He knew everything he did for these liquid golds. Although Singer had plundered the Chris family, he really didn't know the specific amount of these liquid golds he brought back. In particular, he was concerned about the amount of Chinese liquor, which he still didn't understand. He called the old butler to the study to ask carefully. The old butler took out his notebook and smiled and introduced it to his master. "How much is a stock of Chinese liquor?" I didn't expect that the storage of each of the top 10 liquors exceeded 300,000 kilograms. In other words, the stock of each type of Chinese liquor is 150 tons. Of course, this 150 tons is taken from an average value. For example, the storage capacity of Shaanxi Zifeng liquor exceeds 160 tons, but the storage capacity of the delicious Shaanxi Fengjiu is 130 tons, and the average of the top 10 famous wines in China is only 150 tons. Of course, the age of these wines, that is, the age of cellaring, is different. For example, Huameo is 60 years old, and the oldest is Shaanxi Fengjiu, which is more than 130 years old. The types of rice wine are even more amazing. The total amount of Daughter Red wine stored for hundreds of years exceeds 500,000 jin, a total of 250 tons. In addition, there are Shigua Ganghua Dio and other types, and the number has reached about 100 tons. There are also 5 types of medicinal wines, and the lowest storage capacity of these medicinal wines is more than 100 years. However, the amount of medicinal wine is very small, only 7,000 jin. Of course, the amount of wine consumed is also very small, enough to drink for hundreds of years. Chapter 396, Daddy's life is boring. Although he lives in Singer Castle and is familiar with it, Singer is a responsible man. Because Lina insisted that her child must be taken care of by herself, which is conducive to the growth and development of the child, Singer also accepted it with pleasure, because Lina was right. Parents are irreplaceable during the growth stage of children. In order to allow Lina, a mother, to have a good rest at night, Singer set the time at a fixed time 3 times every night, and then got up. Checking the baby son sleeping in the crib beside the bed, the little guy slept like a dead pig and only hummed twice when he urinated or felt uncomfortable. If he saw that the child's diaper was dirty, Singer would carefully change the child's diaper. When wiping the buttocks, he always used a warm water towel and then carefully applied baby lotion to keep the little guy fragrant so that he could yawn and fall asleep in bed. Sometimes Singer even suspected that Lina insisted on taking care of the child herself for ulterior motives. When the child is breastfeeding, he will show up on time. After breastfeeding, he will leave his son to Singer, the nanny, and ignore him. The little guy sleeps for more than 20 hours a day and only cries when he is hungry, urinates, or defecates. Singer is quite looking forward to the title of nanny, but the reaction of his own child makes the nanny's life fall into endless boredom. He sleeps every day and does not interact with his father. To be honest, the life of this nanny is really a bit boring, even if it is very strenuous to take care of the child. But his son is so obedient that he never cries and screams for no reason, which makes Singer's workload as a nanny only 1 hour every day. In addition to taking care of the child, Singer puts all his time on planning the character castle and records all his ideas in a notebook. 3 days later at 2 p.m., the decoration company arrived as scheduled. The top design team of the entire decoration company led by the boss personally came to Singer Castle for a field investigation. The task of decoration this time was very heavy. The entire castle almost had to be overhauled, and the mountain had to be hollowed out to build a cave wine cellar. Except for the main building, there was no place that could be moved. Belcina took the design team to visit all the rooms in the castle and then expressed all the places he wanted to change. The employer is God, and they will do whatever the employer says. In addition, Belcina is not short of money, and all the decoration materials used are green and environmentally friendly products and pure natural. No synthetic materials are allowed to be used, and even paint needs to be replaced with pure natural tree oil. In one word, it is extremely luxurious. In order to reflect the nobility of the decoration of the European royal palace, even some places are decorated in a gilded way. As for the unique ancestral portraits of those castles in Europe, Belcina denied them all. A good living room, a good house, was decorated abnormally luxuriously, and the many portraits painted on the wall looked very strange. In addition, the decoration company has a very heavy task, which is to detect whether all the furniture in Singer Castle is intact. Repair the damaged places, then clean them thoroughly, and remove all the bathroom facilities in all the rooms, and replace them with new ones. It took 3 full days to finalize the renovation plan, and the renovation was set to be completed in about 3 months. However, as the saying goes, there are unexpected events, and ideas cannot keep up with the rapid changes. When measuring the cave, sound wave measurement was used, and it was found that there was a crack in the mountain in the center of the cave. If a large wine storage cellar is dug out in the cave, the cracks in the mountain must be fixed and filled to prevent water leakage. If the entire mountain is hollowed out, the mountain will split in half, like 2 watermelon ladles falling on the land. Finally, after expert demonstration, the scale of the wine cellar should not exceed 1000 cubic meters. Originally, I wanted to build 2 floors, but now I can't try, and can only build 1 floor. But it is more than enough to store so many top Chinese liquors, and the original wine cellar needs to be expanded, which is enough for the Singh family to use for wine. Singh expressed helplessness. As the saying goes, good people will conquer nature, but it is impossible for people to conquer nature. Because nature will not give up its advantages to humans. You don't have the conditions to win. How can you fight against nature? After 3 days of busy work, various monitoring and data, the decoration plan of Singer Castle was thoroughly mapped out. The decoration effect map will be drawn in 3 days, and then the family can choose which one they like. Then the construction will last for 3 months. After careful calculation, the construction cost has reached £35 million. It costs more than a castle. After all, it is not as convenient to tear down and rebuild it as to repair it. It is restricted everywhere. Fortunately, this decoration company specializing in serving aristocratic castles is doing this kind of meticulous engineering with professional construction quality and skills. The money was not less, but the quality of the project was absolutely top-notch. After more than a week of tossing, Belcina left the first batch of decoration funds and deposited them into the account of the decoration company. Musha, a more careful member of the family, stayed in the castle. As the supervisor of the Singer family, Musha would find out any problems as soon as possible. Then tell the decoration company to correct it quickly. The Singer family doesn't need your decoration money. If you make a shoddy project, the Singer family will not only not give you a penny, but also sue you in court to compensate the Singer family's losses. In addition, there are primary and secondary points in decorating the castle. The first thing to solve is the problem of the cave wine cellar. After all, so many Chinese liquors and medicinal wines can't be exposed to the sun. First, take half a month to build the wine cellar for me, and then decorate the castle. After finishing these things and leaving Musha, the Belcina family began to pack up. Then they came to London in 3 business cars. After a day's rest, they ordered enough tickets and compartments from the Eurostar company. The Eurostar train is the most famous in the whole of Europe. The routes are all over Europe. The Eurostar train is divided into express trains and slow trains. Express trains are generally used by those anxious people. Even if you get on the train in Madrid, Spain, you have to go all the way to Warsaw, the capital of Poland. The journey time will not exceed 18 hours. The other type is a slow train for sightseeing. This type of slow train is for sightseeing. The car body is very luxurious, spacious and bright, and all of them are expensive private rooms. Other people's private rooms are small rooms. There can be 8 independent private rooms in a carriage, but there are many members of the Belsina family, and they are not short of money. The Eurostar line transferred a train carriage with independent private rooms from Belgium, which is specially used by the Singer family, and hung at the rear of the car. This private room not only has 6 independent rooms, but also has an independent bathroom, an independent kitchenette, and a living room. The carriage is surrounded by glass. No matter where you are in the carriage, you can see the beautiful scenery outside. Although the train is moving forward at a snail's pace, all the more distinctive large and small stations need to stop for a while, so that the passengers in the carriage can appreciate the local scenery and customs and enjoy the food. Chapter 397, Long Journey. The Eurostar departed from London, England, and headed eastward. 2 days later, it entered the Channel Tunnel. The tunnel was full of monotonous scenery. What kind of beautiful scenery can a tunnel have? So the speed of driving in was increased, but after landing in France, the train began to slow down slowly. It drove forward at a speed of 30 km per hour, which was slow enough so that the passengers in the carriage could fully enjoy the beautiful scenery of France. It even turned several big corners and visited famous cities and attractions in France. The stop time in Paris was 2 days. Let Belsina take his family to have a good time in Paris. The Eiffel Tower and the Louvre all left the footprints of the character family. In particular, the authentic French cuisine in Paris, France, made the Singer family very appreciative. Only in Paris can you eat the most authentic French cuisine. After resting for 2 days, the Eurostar train started again, and then slowly came to Switzerland through France. In fact, Switzerland is a German-speaking country. 80% of the people are Germanic people, and the relationship with Germany is quite good. This is why Switzerland was the only country that could avoid war in World War II. This is the first point. The second point is that Switzerland is a country of soldiers, and it can arm an army of more than 2 million highly qualified soldiers at any time and anywhere. Moreover, the country is rich and well equipped. Even a madman like Hitler did not dare to attack Switzerland. Swiss mercenaries have been popular in Europe for thousands of years, from ancient times to the present. That is not exaggerated, but really done. It can be said that they are invincible in Europe. Until now, the Vatican Pope Guard is composed of Swiss mercenaries. The reason why there is such a national defense system and such economic strength. Switzerland has never been invaded for hundreds of years in Europe. The economy is prosperous, the buildings are well preserved, and the people are simple. It is also one of the richest countries in the world. The people's lives are so happy that the index has soared. Switzerland is located in the Alps, with beautiful natural scenery and its unique attractions all year round. Especially when the winter skiing season begins, the whole of Switzerland becomes a paradise in Europe. Europeans love skiing, but Swiss ski resorts are the best in the world. Not only the beautiful scenery, but also the abundant snow trails, and especially the slow pace of life have attracted the nervous rich people in Europe. As soon as the train entered Switzerland, the natural scenery was breathtaking. Almost every small village had its own unique beauty and definition, and was unique. Although the small village was not big, with only a few hundred people and dozens of houses, the unique beauty could kill countless films in seconds. When in France, the Eurostar train was described as a turtle's pace, with a speed of 30 km per hour, but as soon as it entered Switzerland, it immediately slowed down to 20 km. Riding a bicycle is faster than this speed, but all the people in the Singer family have a common feeling. That is, the car is too fast. This speed is too fast. Let your eyes not keep up with the changes in the beautiful scenery, and you will not be satisfied. No matter how long the journey is, it will reach the end. No matter how slow the Eurostar train is, it arrived in Bern, the capital of Switzerland, 3 days later. This trip took half a month, but the Singer family was still reluctant to leave when they got off the train. The most discussed topic among the family was when to do it again. This kind of slow train trip to Europe allows you to appreciate the natural scenery, cultural scenery and architectural scenery of Europe, and then embark on a food tour. It is best to take a trip around Europe and travel to every country. This is the most addictive. However, the addiction is over, and it is impossible to do it without a year. Can Singh abandon his industry in India and travel to Europe for a year? Will his family survive? India is his foundation, and traveling is just to relieve his nervous nerves. He came to the central city of Bern and stayed at the Hilton Hotel that had been customized long ago. After resting for 2 days, Singh brought the old butler and the human Luo Debrek to a warehouse in the suburbs. The top-notch gold artworks that were not auctioned are all stored in this warehouse. 200 meters away is the century-old bank that Bell Singh chose to work closely with the Singh family. This bank is not very famous, and people in most countries in the world have never heard of the name of this bank. But in the eyes of billionaires, this bank can be said to be a hot commodity. Although this bank is not big, the people it serves are all rich people with more than $1 billion. If you don't have money, they will not serve you. A large part of the Swiss economy is provided by these banks, and the service quality is the best in the world. What's more, this small bank serves all super rich people with more than $1 billion. So how can it be bad? The most important point is that this bank is not allowed to disclose any information about its customers. Even if the United States exerts pressure, it cannot get any information about any customer from this bank, and you can't even ask for the name. The confidentiality level is the best in the world, and this small bank only has its headquarters in Switzerland. There are no branches in other countries, but it can have business exchanges with the most important banks in all countries. The bank cards and credit cards issued by this bank are treated as VIPs by any bank in any country in the world. Such good service items and such thoughtful services need to be bought with money. Like Bell Singh, buy a safe of about 10 square meters in this small bank and the underground vault. The price of buying for 1 year was an astonishing $3 million. Of course, the interest amount of the cash stored by the Singh family in this bank reached an astonishing $15 million every year. This fee is more than enough to pay with interest. Each of these treasures is priceless. They are all fine products carefully selected by the character family. Although the quantity is not large, if all these things are sold, the Singh family can become one of the top 10 richest people in India. However, if these things are sold one by one, it is the best choice to keep them in hand, rather than to use them to make money. When these treasures were transported away, Bell Singh carefully checked their quantity. This time he came to the Swiss capital to have a good rest. Then he went to the warehouse to check the quantity and quality of these treasures again. There was no discrepancy between the two, so he was relieved. This afternoon, Bell Singh brought the old butler to the headquarters of this bank called Mark Bank, and personally found Mr. Spencer, the general manager of the bank. Although they had been contacted a long time ago, General Manager Spencer was still surprised to see Bell Singh's young face. He is really too young, and he has today's asset scale in his genes. Compared with Bell Singh, those so-called business wizards and self-made billionaires are not good enough. You and Bell Singh are average in ability. Let's see who is better. But although Bell Singh is young and rich, he does not have the impetuousness of young people. He is like a smooth old man, an old fox, which makes Spencer, the general manager of the bank, admire him the most. Chapter 398. Mark Bank's supreme customer. Others don't know the details of Bell Singh. It is General Manager Spencer who has the information sent by the Singh family. Of course, he knows what Bell Singh's character represents. Mark Bank is the most popular bank in the world among billionaires. He has his own unique features, but the bank needs to conduct a comprehensive review of its customers and the information must be true and valid. If the bank finds any falsification in the information, you have tens of billions of dollars in assets, and Mark Bank will no longer care about you. Mark Bank is not short of the source of billionaire customers. It requires that the customer information must be accurate. Moreover, Mark Bank is the strictest bank in the world, and no country can make it yield. Even if you give your real information to Mark, the bank will keep it secret. This is why Spencer was so surprised to see Bell Singh. He is rich and low-key. The information shows that the development process of Bell Singh is a miracle, which makes him, a well-informed general manager, feel incredible. Everyone said how legendary he is. It's better to meet and shake hands with each other. After a brief greeting, he sat on the sofa and tasted the top quality Blue Mountain coffee. Of course, Bell Singh came to Mark Bank to handle business rather than to reminisce about the past. He quickly finished the bank's business and then went home. to accompany his wife and children. Who has time to accompany this bold old man in his 40s? The main ethnic group in Switzerland is Germanic. They inherited the excellent characteristics of the Germanic people, and they are rigorous, persistent, cautious, and efficient. There has never been so much nonsense and greetings. After the two sat down, General Manager Spencer took out a confidentiality agreement and asked Bell Sr. to take a look. If everything is fine, it will be signed and take effect. After the confidentiality agreement was signed, General Manager Spencer personally accompanied Bell Sr. and the old butler to the underground vault of Mark Bank. Good guy, take a look inside. It is simply an underground castle. It is so big. The scale of each vault ranges from 1 cubic meter to hundreds of cubic meters. It is 40 meters deep underground, and it is surrounded by alloy steel rock with a thickness of 10 meters. It is impossible to dig a tunnel in. So this underground vault is the top and safest underground vault in the entire Swiss banking industry. No one exceeds his. In his previous life, Bell Sr. was a Chinese. He liked auspicious numbers, so he chose a medium-sized vault of 10 cubic meters. Number 8. This number is auspicious enough, right? When he came to the door of the underground vault safe, he collected Bell Sr.'s iris, fingerprints, blood DNA, and sound bands. Without any of these 4 unique physiological structures, the door of the vault cannot be opened. As the owner of the vault, Bell Sr.'s physiological characteristics are the first password. Of course, Bell Sr. is also afraid of an accident. If he dies, his son can only take his confidential documents to find the next general manager of Mark Bank, which will take a lot of procedures to open the vault. So for the sake of insurance, a second biological password was set up, which is the old butler's iris characteristics, fingerprints, blood DNA, and sound bands. If he has an accident, the old butler will bring his eldest son Tagore to Mark Bank to change the password. There is no doubt that the butler is loyal to the Singh family. In addition to the 4 biological samples of the 2 people, there is also a 16-digit password. The key to the safe is also divided into gold and silver. The owner of the safe, Bell Sr., holds a golden key. After the 4 biological sample passwords are all correct, the golden key can be used to open the door of the safe. You can extract anything stored in the safe at will. The other key is a silver key. This silver key is actually half a key. It can only be opened with the golden key, but the silver key has its function. That is, holding the silver key can open the anti-theft door of the safe. You can take out 1/3 of the total weight of the items inside. If more than 1/3, the door of the safe will automatically close. If you use the golden key, you can empty the safe without any problem. After all, Bell Sr. is a noble person and the master of his own family. He can't go to Switzerland in person, just to take some gold artworks from the safe. What if something goes wrong? So the task of the runway can only fall on the older butler Jamal. Bell Sr. was the first password, and old Jamal was the second password. It took half an hour to get all the passwords and the 2 keys of gold and silver. From then on, this 10 cubic meter safe was the private property of the Singer family. The United States of America would not give him this safe because of the threat of atomic bombs. This is the safest place in the world. After getting the safe pants, Singer took the staff of Mark Bank to the suburbs in a heavy-duty bus. He rented a warehouse and moved the wrapped gold artworks one by one into the car and then stored them all in the 10 cubic meter safe. When the alloy safety door behind was closed, the air inside would be evacuated. In a vacuum environment, even bacteria could not survive, and fungi could not harm it. The priceless gold artworks were stored inside. He got the insurance shares in the morning and opened an account in Mark Bank in the afternoon. In addition to the $300 million in cash in his hands, there were also £50 million. $1 billion in cash is stored in the Mark Bank account, and the interest alone is $15 million per year. The decoration company's £35 million of decoration money has been handed over to the old butler. The total amount of cash stored by Bell Sr. in Mark Bank can only be a medium-sized one, and it is impossible to reach the top VIP treatment of Mark Bank. But the things in the safe deposit of Bell Sr. are all priceless treasures. Who in the world can have such a large number of gold artworks collected by the Singer family? In addition to these gold artworks, there are independent liquid nitrogen storage places on the walls of the safe deposit. More than 100 works of the world's most famous oil painting artists are stored, and there is even a famous oil painting called Pond Animals painted by Van Gogh, and there are also famous paintings by Picasso. Which oil painting is not worth hundreds of millions. Therefore, the Belsina family was promoted to VIP customers by Mark Bank, and the Supreme customers hold the Supreme Platinum card issued by Mark Bank. With this Supreme Platinum card, more than $500 million in cash can be withdrawn from the central bank of any country. With this Supreme Platinum card, he can travel the world smoothly. Every airline will upgrade Bell, the Supreme VIP customer of Mark Bank, to the VIP of their company. He can sit in the top first class cabin when flying, and even be allowed to wait for Bell for 2 hours. This is the benefit brought by money. During this trip to Switzerland, he didn't expect to settle all business transactions with Mark Bank in one day. What should Bell do with the $300 million in cash and £50 million in cash in his hands? It's still an account opened in Mark Bank. Bell can store this cash there with just a phone call. Which bank can transfer money to the account of any bank in the world? Chapter 399, Happy Events. After settling the cooperation with Mark Bank, Belsina came to the hotel with ease. That night, he celebrated with his family. This trip to Europe ended perfectly, but Belsina's trip was not over yet. Belsina would stay at home with Lena and the children for a few days, and then he would take Natasha and the old housekeeper to the United States on a plane across the ocean. He would go through the equity change procedures and take back the stocks that he had worked so hard to get back under the name of the Singer family. Because the children were too young to take a plane, let alone go to the United States across the ocean, he had no choice but to stay in Switzerland. After all, Belsina was not going to the United States for tourism this time, but for business, and it was not convenient for the little girl to follow him, so he stayed in Switzerland. That night, he accompanied Lena, who had been lonely for a long time, and the couple was like dry wood meeting a raging fire. They tossed and turned until the next morning, before going to bed. After resting for another 2 days, Singer took Natasha, the old housekeeper, and Brooks, the human flesh LUO, to the Bern International Airport, and flew directly to New York, USA. At the airport, everyone was chatting, while waiting for the ticket check, and boarding the plane. The atmosphere was very lively. They felt very relaxed with all the talk and laughter. Trouble came when they got on the plane. Natasha, who had never been airsick before, vomited so much after the plane took off. This made Belsina very upset. Natasha had never had such a problem before, so why did she vomit so badly this time? Belsina lowered his status and took care of Natasha personally and cleaned up her vomit, which touched Natasha very much. After the plane stabilized, Natasha's reaction was better. She leaned on Belsina's shoulder and hummed uncomfortably. Belsina felt very sorry for his little wife. He patted Natasha's shoulder and complained. How could this happen? If you feel uncomfortable, you should rest in Switzerland. Why do you have to follow me to the United States? Isn't this a joke with your own body? You are too disobedient. Although it was a complaint, in Natasha's ears, it was an expression of her concern for her own body. This made Natasha very happy. She hugged baby Singer tighter and said coquettishly, Sister Lena has to take care of the children. What's the point of a little girl only knowing how to eat? I'm not by your side to take care of your diet and daily life. If you get sick, the whole family will be in trouble. Who is more important, you or me? She vomited into a puddle of mud, but she was still in the mood to joke. I don't know where Natasha's good mood came from. Belsina was so thick that he didn't react at all, which made Natasha feel funny. It was also possible that Belsina had been very tired because of one thing after another during this period of time. His sensitive personality would never be so slow to react. In addition, Natasha was in a very good mood, and she actually laughed, which made Belsina's scalp numb. He lowered his head in confusion, touched Natasha's forehead with his hand, and said to himself, You don't have a fever. What's wrong with you? Are you confused? Why are you still laughing? We'll get off the plane in a dozen hours. Just hold on, and it will be over. Natasha slapped Belsina's hand, and said with a sweet smile, I don't have a cold or fever. Why are you touching my forehead? You should touch here. As she said that, she pulled Belsina's big hand and placed it on her lower abdomen. If Belsina didn't understand at this time, he would be unworthy of being a man. It felt very incredible, so she pulled Natasha to sit up straight, looked at Natasha with a shocked face, and asked in surprise, "Are you pregnant? When did you get pregnant? Why didn't you tell me earlier? How can you be careless about such a big thing as pregnancy? If I had known that you were pregnant, I shouldn't have let you take a plane and travel across the ocean to accompany me to the United States. You should have taken good care of the baby in Switzerland. If there is any danger to you and the child, what do you want me to do? Will I live in this life?" Natasha looked at Belsina's nervous and self-blaming look, and she also felt distressed and comforted Singer. "Don't worry, I didn't have my period this month. Whether I'm really pregnant or not, we still need to check. Besides, what's the big deal about being pregnant? I'm strong, not as fragile as you think. You came to New York alone, although there are old housekeepers to take care of you, but can you be careful? I'm worried when I'm not with you." Although Natasha is usually very gentle, she has a very stubborn temper, and she can't change her mind, even if she is determined. Now the plane has taken off. Do you want it to turn back? Not to mention your current capital. Even if you are the president of the United States, you can't order the plane to turn back immediately. In addition, Belsina's feeling is quite accurate, although Natasha said clearly that she didn't have her menstrual period this month. Whether she is pregnant or not still needs to be checked, but Belsina is absolutely sure that Natasha is definitely pregnant this time. Singer told Natasha and her sisters before, only when Lina gives birth to the heir of the family will the two sisters be allowed to get pregnant and give birth to their own children. This is to ensure the stability of the family for 100 years in the future. After all, the conflict between the eldest son, born out of wedlock, and the second son born-in-law is the most difficult to balance. One is the eldest son of the family, but he was born to a concubine. His status in the family is very embarrassing. It is not accurate to say that he is the heir, because his younger brother has a higher status than his older brother. You say that he is not the heir, but the eldest in the family. Brothers and sisters should give full respect to their eldest brother. Isn't this a conflict between brothers? At that time, Belsing, the father's palm and back of the hand are all flesh. How to choose? So Belsing did not allow the other two women to get pregnant and give birth to children when Lina did not give birth to the eldest son. Now Lina has successfully given birth to Tagore Singh, the eldest son of the New Song family. This is a natural way to become the first heir of the character family. Whether in reason or in cognition and law, this is stipulated. Impeccable unshakable status. At this time Natasha, who was with Belsing, saw Tagore's birth, and her desire to be a mother increased day by day. The power of wish is hanging again and again. Sometimes the more you want something, the farther it is from you. But sometimes wishes are very sensitive. Whatever you want, it will come soon. That's how children come. On the Eurostar train, Natasha felt something was wrong because her menstrual period was delayed for 2 or 3 days. This made Natasha happy and panic. Whether her wish was fulfilled or not, she could only be sure if the doctor checked it accurately. She was not sure whether she was pregnant. In addition, Belle would not be able to come back for 10 days or 8 days this time. Lina needed to take care of the newborn. What else can the little girl do besides eating? One thing is to act like a spoiled child. Only she could take care of Belle's body and life, and she was the most suitable, so she hid it from her spouse and vomited on the plane. This made Belle see something strange. Wow, this flight was full of surprises. Chapter 400, Excessive Tension. This flight was full of surprises. Since Belsina knew that Natasha had a baby, he had been paying special attention to her. Seeing Natasha's pale face and listless appearance, he let her lean on his shoulder to sleep for a while, but Natasha couldn't fall asleep no matter what. She always felt that her brain was floating in the air, and she was dizzy from time to time. It was not suitable to eat food at this time. She could eat some liquid food at that time. He helped Natasha to sit in the chair. Belsina opened the seatbelt and came to the middle of the cabin to find the flight attendant and asked if there was any liquid food prepared on the plane. The things on the plane were all made and then heated with warm water on the plane. There were not many types, and the things were not very delicious, but they were convenient to open and eat. However, these things were solid. After searching for a long time, he found some bags of fruit pulp jelly. It's better to have something than nothing. Although it is jelly, it contains a lot of vitamins. It is sour and sweet and much easier to digest than eating those solid foods. Even if she could absorb a little bit, it would be good. She also brought 2 for Natasha, the flavors she usually liked. One was orange, the other was strawberry, and there was also a box of yogurt. After getting these things, she returned to her seat and woke Natasha up, then opened the jelly and let her eat some. Although Natasha felt dizzy and her stomach was churning, she saw Belsina's concerned eyes and the child in her stomach that had not yet taken shape. No matter how uncomfortable it was, she had to swallow it down, even if she vomited it out again. She just gritted her teeth and sucked it in, eating it in big mouthfuls. She thought that the food would be vomited out quickly after eating it, but she didn't expect that the jelly was digested very quickly. It was quickly absorbed in the stomach. There was finally something in the stomach, which made Natasha feel better. Then Belsina laid her chair flat, covered her abdomen with a small blanket, and let Natasha have a good sleep for a while. Belsina's hand never left Natasha's, holding her hand to give her strength. When he saw Natasha's breathing even, he turned on the TV in the front seat and put on headphones to watch. In fact, Belsina looked like he was watching TV, but in his heart he was thinking about his own problems, thinking about how to get the stocks of those big companies into his pocket at the lowest price. These stocks have been in the hands of the Chris family for nearly 10 years, and the longest has even exceeded 15 years. Everyone knows that the stocks of these famous companies have only room for growth and have never fallen. The directors of these companies are like hungry wolves, staring at the scattered shares in the stock market, buying them at any cost to increase their shareholding ratio. Although he has the equity change certificate in his hand, as long as he goes to the headquarters of those companies and signs an agreement with the shareholders meeting, these stocks will belong to his name. But will these shareholders let the Singh family get what they want? They may even offer 2 to 3 times the price to buy the shares in their hands. Now the Singh family's assets can be doubled by selling them, and they will have another $1 billion in income. But these stocks are too valuable. If you keep them in your hands, the price will rise to more than $1.5 billion in 5 years. Selling them is equivalent to strangling this goose that lays golden eggs in the cradle. But if you don't sell them, will those shareholders let you get what you want through these small-scale scattered stocks? They will set up all kinds of obstacles. Some despicable people even joined the US government to put pressure on you. Now that the stock price is increasing, you don't follow suit and invest huge amounts of money in it. Your stocks will be slowly diluted from holding 2% to 0.5% or even lower. At that time, although these stocks in your hands are very valuable, the number of them is too small. You don't have any say at all. Of course, you don't have a say now, but the number of stocks is more than that time after all. The total assets of the Singh family do not exceed more than $1 billion US. It's the bottomless pit of the stock market. What effect can these dollars have? It's good to build some waves. With the equity change certificate in hand, it's not so easy to get these stocks completely and safely. How can you not worry? But no matter how difficult it is, I have to face it head on. These golden eggs must be kept in the chicken coop of the Singh family, and then slowly collect these golden eggs. If I really can't stand the pressure, I will also adopt a roundabout strategy. Of course, the Coca-Cola company must have its shares in hand, and the General Motors must also be in hand. As long as I have these big fat cows in my hand, there is nothing to be afraid of. Belsina even thought of cutting meat with pain. If these golden shares that I value most, those shareholders want to kick me out of their share of the cake, I will even sacrifice those less important shares in my hands to negotiate with these people. The first bargaining chip for negotiation is that you must admit that my equity change is legal and change these shares in my hands to my second one. If you want to acquire these stocks, you can bring money, or you can exchange them with the shares of these golden shares in your hands. Even if the ratio is 2:1, I will exchange them to you. I would rather suffer a loss, and I will increase my holdings of Coca-Cola or General Motors. When I recover from this, I will organize a financial team to come to the New York Stock Exchange. I will stay here for a long time to buy retail stocks. 1 year is not enough, 10 years is not enough, 20 years is not enough. Wait until I recover from this. I will increase my stock holdings step by step. When I have a say in the board of directors, you will see how I will deal with you. You bullied me when I was weak, and when I grow up and have the ability to fight back, you will be beaten. The mall is like a battlefield, where the weak are the prey of the strong. It seems very cruel, but this is the fact. You must abide by the rules of the game. If you break this rule, you will become everyone's enemy. Is the capital game so fun? People are eaten without bones. However, making money in the capital market is the biggest contributor. If you want to develop and expand the Singh family, you can't limit it to the Indian subcontinent. India is just your own granary and your own source of funds. Your goal is still international. Making money from the poor will never make a difference. Making money from the rich is a big income. It is better to pull a hand on a towering tree than to swing on a small tree. He knew that it was dangerous, and he knew that he would be wronged, but he had to bite the bullet and push forward. Otherwise, the stocks in his hands would become worthless and would soon be diluted by those shareholders, and he would not be able to get anything back. While thinking about things, he was watching TV listlessly. Natasha, who had been sleeping soundly, suddenly felt her hand tighten. Belsina immediately took off his headphones. Looking back, Natasha seemed to have a painful expression. If any problems occurred on the plane, it would be too late for rescue. How could Belsina not be afraid? He quickly patted Natasha on the side of the bank. Holding her hand, he asked with concern. What's wrong? What's wrong? Tell your husband if you feel uncomfortable. I'll ask the crew to broadcast and see if there are any doctors or nurses on the plane to diagnose you. What's wrong? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.